There are 18 people in the waiting room right now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Clear off. Get rid of that. There's people registering all the time. I don't see where you're looking actually, Jürgen, but it's not too.
No, on the bottom of your screen, you see participants.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so just everyone, we're here in preparation, but I put us live already, so we're live just on the social media, and gradually it will increase. That brings us more people in, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah, okay, great. Great.
But Paul, if you're on the bottom, you see mute, stop video, security, participants. It's the fourth button. On the fourth button of your screen.
Yeah, I don't have that, Jürgen, actually. I just have participants, chat, share screen, record, reactions.
Yes, participants. Click on participants. That's what it is. You see 23 right now if you click on it.
Yeah, I have. No, I don't.
Let me see if you're. Oh, I'm sorry. I made you co-host, but it didn't kick in. Try now.
Oh, yes.
You see it now? Sorry, my mistake.
Look at that. Yes, I can see now.
You're no longer blind. Okay, that's good.
Right. Ajay. We've got Ajay, so I can admit Ajay and Amanda. And she.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, right. Hi, Ajay.
Hi, 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 Jürgen.
Hi, how are you, Ajay?
Good.
Susan.
Okay, George is here.
Dorji, are you going to share your own screen for the presentation?
Me? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I just tried with the Jürgen. It worked.
Okay.
Yeah, it all works. It worked. Don't worry about it.
Great. Excellent.
We just tested it before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's keep them in the cage, I would say. Let's keep them in the waiting room, except for people you know. Otherwise, it might get too confusing. And I'm going to go live, so it's going to take me a little bit of concentration. But we have Dimitri here also. So
I see what's happened actually, because some people were struggling to find the link. Jens being one of them. Hi, Jens. And so Jens has come in on my name.
Oh no, the link is, I resend it to everyone today. And if it comes immediately when you register, you get the link, and then you get 2 or 3 emails. Unless some people don't put their real email in because they're worried about, and then of course you're out of luck. That's true.
Yeah. Hi Jens, did you hear that? Do you want to check again? Do you want to, because it says Paul Rogers.
Jens, I can send you this, Jens. If
I
you want.
I got the email from you, like the automated email. I got that.
Yeah, that's their link is in there. So just click on that link. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
But it says on your
it
video,
says Paul on it.
Paul Rogers. You have my name because
I just clicked on the link you sent me on WhatsApp, but
No, that's not the right link. Jens, it's not the right link. You got your own email when you signed up, and that's the link because they're name sensitive. So if you share it with someone, they're all under the same name. But you may be able to change your name manually here on your screen, because right now you're coming up as Paul. Yeah, but it's not fine for other people because they think you're Paul Rogers.
I'll come back.
Okay.
I'm just checking in.
I know you want to be Paul Rogers. I know that. We all want to be Paul Rogers.
Okay.
I'll come back later. I was just checking in quickly, and then I'll call back in later, so I'll be fine then.
Okay.
I've just changed you there.
For now, I'm Paul Rogers.
No, you're back to being Jens. You're back to being Jens.
Yeah, I know. We all want to be Paul Rogers. That's what it is. Okay.
Just for a few minutes, I can be.
Yes. So, what would you give to be Paul Rogers for a few minutes?
It's the day of happiness today, so I could be Paul Rogers for a few minutes.
Very good. Okay.
Excellent. Just to. Well, I'll announce this later, but unfortunately, Gloria Guevaro was traveling unexpectedly this week.
He's in Mexico, yeah.
Yeah, so she was unable to send her video through, and we did get one, but it's like 13 minutes and it doesn't respond to the questions that we set. So it really doesn't fit. So it didn't arrive until very late. Well, it arrived this morning. I got it when I woke up, but I think we just have to drop that one.
Okay.
That's actually all right, Paul, because it gives us a little more time to, after the presentation, ask the speakers a couple of questions. So yeah, that should be okay. And in terms of overall time, if we compress this one a little, it's okay. Everybody else has a little more time as well, so we should be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense, Ajay. Yeah.
Paul, quick question: Did David Scousel now come on board or not? I didn't see him on the list. Or
no, I had a chat with him last night, and yeah, he's not. It's not possible for him to join today.
Okay, that's fine.
And also one thing, Paul, we discussed yesterday about muting. Okay, when we let people in, they can just chat with each other, and they're not going to mute it from here, so everyone is mute. So don't worry about it, and then we can restrict it after that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And Dimitri will help me also to mute people. We had just everyone be aware we had an attempt for a hacker to join us. So hopefully we caught it. So we have to be a little bit alert on this. So when this happens, usually what they do, they play loud music and trying to interrupt us. We have to see who it is and just kick them out. And with so many people, we have more than 400, it might become a challenge, but let's see. Hopefully. I don't see anyone here, so usually you can kind of detect them sometimes from the name, they have like strange names. So
yeah, okay.
Dima, when you're aware of it, you know how to kick someone out, right?
Yes, I know, sure.
Okay. And then you can ban this person too immediately.
So how are we opening, Paul? Is Jorgen opening the event?
Yes, I will open it and then I will give it to Paul because you guys have it all worked out and I don't want to interfere. And then at the end, when it comes to Q&A, so maybe then we can gradually give it back to me, if that works for you guys.
Yeah, okay. I think it would be nice if you say a few words, Ajay, as, IIPT, a co-convener. And Jeffrey has sent, he should be joining us as we start, but he's also sent a few opening remarks through. So, so we'll play those. So if Jürgen starts, and then if you want to say a few words, Ajay, and then we'll do Jeff and Taleb. If he is in on time, then he can say a few words as well. Laura, do you want to say a few things? Laura, would you like to say a few words for the opening?
I have the 5 minutes as the moderator, so if you haven't already talked about it, I'll talk about the 2012 meeting, the origins of the International Day of Happiness event, and Bhutan, and what well-being is.
Yeah, all right, nice. That's great. That's great.
Paul, also when speakers come up, do me a favor. I have the list from you, but I may not immediately know who's speaking. So in order to portray them, just say the name also for Dimitri's and my benefit so we can highlight them when they, the way it's listed here. So that's because they're alphabetically on my screen here.
Okay. So you mean in terms of the agenda for your session?
No. When you give someone the microphone, make sure you have the name so I can hear the name and Dimitri can hear the name so we can put the spotlight on them. Otherwise, we may not be able to find them for a while.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, some of you and many of you I know, but we don't know everyone, so that's fine.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I've just got a message come in, a voice message come in from a colleague. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay, so we're going to let people in 5 seconds.
Cool.
Okay, people are coming in. And now Dimitri will help with getting people in.
Yeah, okay.
Dimitri, I would suggest if you see someone with a phone number coming in, not with an email, to find out what it is, or maybe even call the number to verify that this is a legitimate person.
I'll see.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting people. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We need about 3 minutes and we'll be able to start. Everyone who is now watching us live, I see we get a good number of people watching us on eTurboNews and social media. If you still wanted to be part of this event, you can still register. Just go to worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com, and you see the Planet Happiness is the first event. You can register and actually you can be part of this audience. Okay, the microphone is open for anyone, so if you see any friends, feel free to say hello.
It's lovely to see so many people here. Fantastic.
Hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody from Alaska. My name is Mary.
Oh, neighbors, huh? Alaska, how are you?
Oh, hi, Mary. All right, Jerry.
Good morning from Scotland.
Hi, Scotland.
Nice accent. Great.
Good evening from San Francisco.
Yeah, it is evening already, huh? Almost 11, past 11 there.
Great.
Okay, so we have like 30 seconds, or maybe we give it another minute because we still have a lot of people coming in.
Yeah. Good. Wow.
Hi, oh, there's Deepak. How are you, Deepak?
Hi, namaste. Good to see you all. Namaste, Paul.
Hey, Deepak. Nice to see you.
See you.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Okay, Dima, there was a phone number you left in.
Hi, Deepak ji.
Hi, Gazi.
Hi,
Hello,
Deepak. Good
Deepak.
morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Hello.
Okay, so let's give it it's 8:03 now. Maybe we go to 8:05 if that's okay, Paul, before we start, because otherwise we're going to have too many people missing the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Jerry. Hi, Jerry. Jerry Spooner. He's just joined, and we'll need the co-host status for his presentation. Just to mention.
Yeah, the presentation will all be fine, with or without Cobalt, so don't worry about it. It's all set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way you're a lot more relaxed than I am, Jürgen.
No. Okay, I see a lot of messages on the chat box already.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to pull up the chat box, you can also communicate during the event there. It's all open. Okay, so let's start in 25 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Up to 100 now. Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting there. Abidun, you're sharing your screen. Would you mind stop sharing the screen? Then we can start. Abidun, okay. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Bridget. Nice to see you.
We still get a lot of people coming in, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good morning, Paul.
Oh, I'm back.
Hi, Birgit.
I'm back.
Good to see you.
Okay, let's get going. I'm going to mute everyone now, and then when you speak, you can just unmute yourself, and to please stay muted during the event. And when it comes to questions and answers, you can electronically raise your hand. Just look on the right side of your screen. Under participant, there's a little hand, and you can just click on it, and so we know you wanted to say something. Physically raising the hand on the video, we don't always see this, so I would suggest doing it electronically. Okay, let's get started.
So, hi everybody. It's good that you're all here. Sorry, Jürgen, were you going to start or?
Yes, yeah. I'm just pushing the last buttons here on my live thing. Sorry. All right, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening from Hawaii. Aloha, we say here. Namaste, guten Abend, and I see people from all over the world. It's absolutely fantastic. We had 427 registrations. Doesn't mean everyone will sign up, they'll actually join the live event, but 427 people told us they would. And if you are watching us now live on eTurboNews, Livestream, or any of our partner publications like Hawaii News Online, or on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and you wanted to be part of this live event, you can still go to worldtourismevents.com, and you will see the Day of Happiness, the UN Day of Happiness right there. And this is what we're celebrating today. We're very pleased to, please, if you can stay muted. We're very pleased to welcome Paul Rogers. He is from Planet Happiness, and today is actually the International UN Day of Happiness. I'm sure you will find out a lot more what this is, but I mean, wow, I mean, we really need a little bit of happiness in these tough times. So we're very pleased to have Paul as a member of the World Tourism Network. And I wanted to thank him in advance. I know how hard Paul and his team worked to put this event together here today. So we're all excited. And thank you for joining us. I see some of you are joining us in the middle of the night, your time. So that is very encouraging. But for those that are joining us or listening to us, they are not a member of the World Tourism Network, please become a member. You just simply go to wtn.travel or worldtourismnetwork.org. It's the same. And click on member or join us. And then you will be part of a team of people now in 127 countries around the world. So without further ado, I know this is going to be a long event. And if you need to leave in between and you don't have a chance to sit out the 2 hours or 2.5 hours of presentations, they're all going to be very good. You don't want to eventually miss it. It'll be archived, and actually we'll be also showing this over the next 48 hours on eTurboNews. So when you go to any page, read us on any page you like, you will find this event playing for the next 48 hours, about 6 hours after the end of it, after this event here concluded. Otherwise, it'll be on archive on livestream.travel. And or you can go to World Tourism Network and click on past events, and you can see us for the next few years. It'll be archived. But without further ado, and it is not rude for me not to mention and recognize so many friends here, because I'm going to sit here probably for the next 30 minutes calling names. So we leave this out, but I wanted to say hello to Paul Rogers. He's joining us from Australia, and he's the man behind Tourism Happiness. Welcome, Paul. You need to unmute yourself, otherwise we can't be happy with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I've got a few things to say, but I think it would be good if Ajay steps in and says a couple of words first. This is an event with not just WTN and Planet Happiness Alliance, as you know, but also IIPT and SunX. So yeah, Ajay, would you like to say a few words on behalf of IIPT? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Namaste to everybody from India, and greetings on the occasion of the United Nations World Happiness Day. And a big, big thank you to Paul and Planet Happiness for putting together this extremely thought-provoking and extremely relevant event today. Because this is to remind us that happiness is not something that you celebrate today. It's something that we need to work on, and we need to keep working on every day right through the year. IIPT, or the International Institute for Peace Through Tourism, was founded 35 years ago by the visionary Dr. Louis D'Amore. Unfortunately, because it's so early in the morning in the United States, he has not been able to join us. But the IIPT has always advocated the power of tourism as a potent tool for peace and harmony. The IIPT concept of peace goes far beyond the mere absence of war or conflict. It embraces many other dimensions, which we will be exploring today, including peace with nature and our common home planet Earth, as also peace with future generations. IIPT's first Vancouver conference in 1998 originally introduced the concept of sustainable tourism development, 4 years prior to the United Nations Rio Summit on Environment and Development, and whose culmination and fructification we see today in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We at IIPT are extremely proud to partner with Planet Happiness, the World Tourism Network, and SunX Malta in this global webinar, which is about tourism and happiness for a brighter future, and which focuses on well-being well beyond GDP, especially in the current scenario when all of us need to look for bright spots amidst the despondency that the COVID-19 has created. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. And we hope you will stay till the end, because it's going to be a fascinating set of discussions that we'll have. Over to you, Jürgen.
Okay, let me jump in instead of Jürgen if I can. What I'd like to do is do a screen share for Jeffrey Lippman. It's early in the morning where Jeff is, and so we have this short video from Jeff.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Lippman. I'm the president of SunX Malta, a legacy program for the late Maurice Strong, architect of the UN Sustainable Development Framework and climate activist half a century ago. We're very happy to be a supporting partner in this International Day of Happiness event. The post-COVID world will require new imaginative approaches if we're to deliver what UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called safe, equitable, and climate-friendly travel. And stakeholder happiness will be an important element for communities, for companies, and for consumers. As we push the climate-friendly travel envelope, low carbon, SDG linked, Paris 1.5 trajectory, and as we help the sector align with the UN 2030 SDG and 2050 Paris roadmap, look forward to working closely with the Happiness Alliance and with Planet Happiness to ensure that this vital human dimension is fully integrated into the tough but essential transformation. And we must start changing right now if we're to prevent our grandkids from freezing or frying over the next 3 decades. So I want to congratulate Paul and Lisa for putting this impressive event together. And I'm also very pleased to take part in another great event with my friend Thomas Steinmetz and World Travel Network. You're truly a visionary in building important online travel and tourism communities. I look forward to an entertaining and a happy meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. And then just before I say a few words, Talib, I see Dr. Talib Rafai has joined, who's been invaluable help to bring this meeting together. Talib, would you like to say a few words, please?
Of course, Paul. Good morning. It's a bit early here, but I think it's a reasonable time in other parts of the world. What I like to say is commend my friend Jeffrey for his stand, his principled stance on climate change. My only comment here is sustainability is more than just the climate. Sustainability means sustain life on Earth. That means everything has to do with life on Earth has to be taken into account. Social economic sustainability are just as important as environmental sustainability. With all due respect, Jeffrey, I know you agree with me, and I agree with you on the importance of the environment. But I think happiness has to do with people, with society. Climate is about people, yes, but then there is a relationship with the community that's very important here. What I mean to say here is that, I'm sorry, I have a dog barking in the background. Sustainability is about connecting with the environment, with the society around you. Sustainability is about respecting the people that are living on this planet. People will not allow climate change to take over. We've been through this before. I believe in mankind. I believe we're in a much better position than we were thousands of years ago when we had the ice ages. So, as concerned as I am about the environment, as serious as I am, I'm not so worried. I believe in mankind. I believe in the ability of mankind to overcome all of this. The important thing is to respect the society and respect the people. Thank you so much, Paul, and I'm sure we have other opportunities later on after we hear everybody, especially you. Thank you so much, Paul, for all your efforts. And thank you, Jürgen, for bringing us together as usual. Bye. See you.
Excellent. Many thanks, Talib. So a few words from myself. Firstly, obviously, I'd like to thank our co-organizers for their support and encouragement to convene this event. We're all thrilled at the way this event has come together so quickly at such short notice and the interest it has generated. Secondly, I'd just like to thank now, if I can, all our wonderful moderators and speakers for joining it with such informative and inspiring presentations. And I'd also like to give a special thanks to my wonderful colleague at Planet Happiness and the Happiness Alliance for their wonderful teamwork and support to bring this event to you all. So a special thanks to Laura Musakansky, to Chi Lo, to Amanda Lukai, Rochelle Villa, Catalina Laverde, Anna Drozdowska, Marjorie Van Strijn, and Ken Scott. Thank you all so much. It's a pleasure and a great privilege to be working with you all. And then lastly, I'd just like to thank all you participants for joining. I hope the event is rewarding and informative. If you enjoy this event and the agenda that we're talking to here, as much as if you're inspired by it, as we all are, please do stay in touch with us. Follow us on LinkedIn and the usual social media channels. So today we're together for this 2.5-hour event to discuss happiness and well-being in the context of the devastating impacts of the COVID pandemic and calls from all sections of society for the travel and tourism industry to build back better. We are honoured to be in presence here today of many distinguished individuals, policymakers, expert industry practitioners, leading academics, and a diverse group of individuals from all around the world that are coming together to raise awareness of the happiness and well-being agenda and its potential to build synergies with the tourism sector. So as we begin this webinar, please keep in mind that we're using these terms happiness, well-being, and quality of life interchangeably, as they all have the same meaning in our approach. All these sessions, as you know, will be recorded and the materials will be made available after the conference as part of your registration. This will be posted on our event landing page as soon as we're able to arrange this. Please keep all your participant microphones off during the sessions so that everyone can focus on the presentations. We'll move through the 5 themes that are in the agenda, leaving questions for the final segment of the webinar. Please feel free to use the chat function. Moderators will harvest questions from the participants through the chat box to guide the dialogue at the end. Now, last but certainly not least, a very special acknowledgement to Bhutan for bringing this extraordinary gross national happiness agenda to the world. We're grateful and honoured and fortunate to have the Honourable Mr. Dorji Dradel with us today, the Director General of the Tourism Council of Bhutan. Just like to say that we all recognise Bhutan's incredible leadership with the happiness and well-being agenda, especially the immense work 10 years ago that resulted in the UN Resolution 65309, happiness towards a holistic approach to development. And we'd also like to acknowledge the country's more recent handling of the COVID pandemic, with just 1 registered life lost as a direct result of the disease. We'd like to wish Bhutan well with all its efforts to rebuild from its tourism sector following the pandemic, as well as to all our destination affiliates and those joining us here today. Please feel free to share your participation in this event by using the hashtags that you will hopefully find in the chat function and spreading word through those social media channels. Very lastly, we've had 1 participant unable to join today. Just to mention this, Gloria Guevaro, the President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council. She was supposed to be with us in session 2, but she's had to travel unexpectedly this week. And so unfortunately, we don't have her presentation with us, unfortunately. Right, okay, so having said all that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Laura Musikansky, who is going to moderate the first session. Thanks, Laura.
Beautiful, Paul, thank you. So happy International Day of Happiness. And I hope that each and all of you will come away from this time together that we have with real hope for the future, with real optimism for the future, and with real inspiration. So I've been leading a project called the Happiness Alliance since 2010, and it was in 2012 when myself and Paul were both invited members. That's kind of special that we were invited members by the Bhutan's Prime Minister Thinley to the 2012 high-level meeting that Paul mentioned. That meeting was also convened by the United Nations, and it essentially launched the happiness movement. What is the happiness movement, and what is International Day of Happiness really about? If you read resolution 66/281, you will see that it's not about something silly about dancing. Of course, those are important, but what it's about, I'm going to quote this: recognizing the need for a more inclusive, equitable, and balanced approach to economic growth that promotes sustainable development, poverty eradication, happiness, and the well-being of all peoples. So in this first session, you're going to learn a little bit about what the happiness movement is about. I'm going to put here, you see that you're going to hear from Luis. He's going to be our last speaker. And with him, I'll start with him. You're going to get an experience of what happiness means. He's been doing wonderful work bringing the experience of happiness to people through the organization that he leads today, which he'll tell you about, and also collaterally through an organization he started called Wohasu. Your first speaker is going to be Nancy Hay. It's going to be on video, and she's going to talk about what they're doing in the United Kingdom. Now, we all know that Bhutan started the happiness movement with gross national happiness. The United Kingdom has done great strides. They've done wonderful work. And What Works for Wellbeing, founded in 2015, is doing amazing work. I'm not going to tell you more about it because Nancy will tell you about it. Then you're going to hear from John Hall. John Hall, in 2002, he created the measures of Australia's progress, essentially their sustainability indicators in 2002. Later, he worked with Giovannini to create the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's Better Life Index. And now he's working at the United Nations Development Program, and he heads up the reports, the section that looks at the reports and helps countries with their reports on how they're doing with the Sustainable Development Goals measured by the Sustainable Development Indicators. He'll give you a little bit dour at the beginning, but let's just wait for the end. Wait for what he says at the end. Then you'll hear from Makin Sushkin, who you know better, because what I didn't mention this, but I think it's important to note that I started working with Paul about 3 years ago, and Paul had the amazing idea of bringing the happiness movement to the tourism sector, and we really have to take our hats off to Paul. And I've had great joy in working with Paul, and now our fabulous team. You can see our placards on our profiles here. So Makin Sushkin will talk about. He's a policy analyst, and he'll talk about happiness and well-being within sort of the low-hanging fruit of the tourism industry. And then I already mentioned that we're going to end with Luis. So as Paul is queuing up, Paul or Amanda from Planet Happiness are queuing up this first video from Nancy Hay of What Works for Wellbeing, where you're going to learn a little bit more about the happiness movement. I want to just go ahead and give you a definition of what the happiness movement is all about. This happiness movement represents a paradigm shift where the goal of governments, of economies, of societies, of our own personal lives, and of the tourism industry is as it should be, going beyond GDP and recognizing that economic growth and financial well-being is just one part of the many factors that make us happy and that bring us well-being, so that the goal of all of our systems is our well-being. So if you could go ahead, let's see, we had it queued up and then it unqueued. If you could queue up that first video from Nancy Hay, that would be great, Paul.
Sorry, just bear with me.
I have it ready, but the share screen is disabled. Can anyone help me with this?
No, it's able. It's able. Try it again. It should be open.
It's.
If you click on share screen.
Yeah, So I've got it, and it's saying host disabled.
Oh, hang on. My mistake. Someone shared something earlier, and I did this. Yes,
okay. So while we're having our technical issues, I'm going to put the link in here you'll be able to go ahead and read the actual script of this International Day of Happiness resolution from the United Nations. And here we go.
Right, excellent. There's no sound.
Okay, if this video, maybe you don't have the sound plugged in, maybe you can hold your microphone make this, you know, if you have a speaker, play the sound and hold your microphone on it. That's the fastest way.
We could also try mine. I had it working with Jeff, so.
Yeah, I'll have a look at this and see why the sound's not working, and maybe you play this one, Paul.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so unshare the screen.
Okay.
All
right, so while they're working on things, I want to let you know about another event that'll be happening shortly, and that's the World Happiness Reports. The first World Happiness Report was launched at that high-level meeting, Happiness and Wellbeing, Defining a New Economic Paradigm. And if you go online, you'll see World Happiness Reports. Just key that in, and you'll be able to, if you want to stay up all night, just stay up a few more hours, you'll be able to see the launch of the World Happiness Reports and find out which country is the happiest, which you probably already know is going to be Finland again. So go ahead, let me get this one going.
How's that? We on?
See if you can hear the video.
I run a collaborating centre working out what community
success
do to improve well-being with leading academics and practitioners around the world. And what are we thinking about when we're thinking about well-being? For me, it's about thinking about what is success. And today we're using the words well-being, happiness, quality of life interchangeably to work out what it is it means, or the idea of societal progress and of creating conditions for people to live better lives, to live a good life, to live a brighter future. Well-being is understanding, really simply, is understanding how we're doing as individuals, communities, how sustainable that is for the future. And how do we know when we're improving lives? Well, we ask, and we ask, how are you doing? And because you can't always tell from the outside what's going on, you can see that when we speak to people about what matters to them in life, they tell us that what helps them thrive is when they're feeling safe, feeling loved and fulfilled, feeling comfortable, have good enough jobs and money, access to a good quality food, and then they're feeling loved and respected and appreciated and fulfilled, able to make a difference in this world. You can see that we're measuring well-being globally, and well-being, it's going beyond this idea of just moving the illness in our life, the absence of illness, but actually actively creating social well-being. And we can see that that means focusing on a broader range of outcomes than you might. Yes, GDP, yes, life expectancy, but also how those and other make a contribution to us living a good life, a better life. It's focusing on outcomes that matter to people. What difference did it make? How do they feel about it? And those outcomes are often aspirational. So as goals in the Sustainable Development Goals, and here in the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act in Wales, which includes the new one of sort of vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language. This idea of having shared goals as a community or an organisation or a society helps us focus shared activity and this idea towards a positive version of progress. And these broader measures means introducing frameworks or dashboards that bring things all together, so economic, social and environmental all together nationally as a full version of our national accounts. It means using objective and subjective measures together. So crime rates and income, as well as do I feel safe alone at night? Do I feel better off? And this mix leads us to much more sustainable problem solving, things that make a difference in our lives. And it also means valuing and building this thing called capitals, investing in things for the future, so natural, economic, human and social capital to create intergenerational well-being in a sustainable way. And what does that mean? I run the What Works Centre for Wellbeing. It's UK's national body for wellbeing evidence, policy and practice. We're an independent collaboration, and we bring together the knowledge around the world for organisations to use to improve lives. So when we heard people talking about well-being in their communities and in their culture, that travel and new experiences came up consistently as really strong and joyous part of our conversations, learning about others, of building empathy and connection. And we know that tourism can improve well-being of tourists and of the local communities in both the short and long term, providing jobs and incomes and belonging and pride and supporting communities and protecting meaningful, intangible cultural assets. We know that how we spend our time matters for well-being, and experiences that improve our well-being include ones that are happy, meaningful, create shared interest, about learning and exploring and creating, about being active and getting into the natural environment for solitude, or with family and friends, making memories and building connections. And so we can see that many places now are having wellbeing frameworks, a wide set of measures telling us how we're doing. And these can be used to understand the full impacts that we're having so that we can do it better and more consistently, spot gaps where we're not doing as well as we'd like, or looking out for harms and making sure people are feeling safe across the system, both now and in the future. And it can help us understand what can help create resilience and support the intergenerational well-being of both individuals and communities. And this means understanding impacts on prosperity, of jobs, of livelihoods, on the places that we live in and our communities around them, so our social impacts and our environmental impacts together, and as well as the difference you make for the lives of your visitors. How do you know the difference you're making in people's lives? Well, you ask. And here at the What Works Centre for Wellbeing, we listen. We want to understand your learning. We want to see your evaluations, your data analysis, so we can make a proper learning system of global knowledge towards social progress. It's been brilliant to be with you today. I'm Nancy Hay at the What Works Centre for Wellbeing. Enjoy the rest of the session.
Okay, so now we're going to queue up our next video, which is by John Hall. But hopefully with that one, you got a kind of an idea of what we mean by well-being, that it really is holistic and that we're looking at many facts as Bhutan does with their Gross National Happiness Index. Here comes John Hall. It's going to be a little dour at the beginning. He's a statistician, but it's going to get good at the end.
I'm John Hall. I'm from the United Nations Development Programme, and I'll just speak briefly about some of the ways I see happiness is important to development work more generally. Last year was a dire year for the planet. I think it's all too obvious that the Earth's warning signals are flashing red. Wildfires in Australia, of course, in California, in the Pantanal in Brazil, even in Siberia, record-breaking hurricanes in the Atlantic, and of course the continuing collapse of the world's biodiversity. Some 70% of wildlife lost in the last 50 years. Humanity is at war with nature, and this is a war we can never win. Of course, COVID-19 has been a very clear warning of what has come and what will continue to come from an ever-tightening grip on nature. COVID-19 has been a development crisis, unprecedented. And of course, there have been terrible health impacts around the world, but also impacts on so much more things that matter about development. Inequality, in particular, in many forms. Many of those already worse off in the world have been hit hardest by COVID. They've lost their chance to go to school, to work, to earn income, and so much more. So the crisis has driven a wedge into existing inequalities and pushed them apart. And yet, despite a year of turmoil we've had from this pandemic, the data shows that happiness has been extraordinarily resilient over the past year. Even though many of the things that our happiness depends on, the pillars that support, have been hit so hard, the data also suggests that some of the aspects of life which we know are very important to happiness, things like whether we trust our government and institutions and whether we trust each other, these have also been critical in how countries have been able to respond to COVID-19. Because if you're in a society where you don't trust your government to do the right thing, people are much less likely to follow policies on things like social distancing or lockdowns or mask wearing. And of course, we've seen that right around the world and how countries have dealt or not dealt with the pandemic. And this shows, I think, once again, that while pursuing happiness for any society is important in its own right, pursuing happiness is also important for a great many other reasons. Here at UNDP, when we talk about well-being, our focus is really on human development, which is essentially empowering people everywhere with the freedom and the opportunity to live the best lives they can. And the data shows reassuringly that human development is very strongly correlated with happiness at the national level. And that's what we'd hope, of course, because if we development professionals think we're raising development, but happiness isn't changing, then are we truly raising development? The two areas generally go hand in hand. You know, here at the UN, the last Human Development Report, which came out in December 2020, was on the Anthropocene, the age of humans, the age in which humans have become the dominant force shaping the planet. We recognize that development cannot come at the expense of the planet. COVID-19 has shown the perils of that. For too long, debates about development have been framed as a choice between saving people or saving the planet. But we can't do one without the other, because planetary and social imbalances interact. Equality in a society can lead to environmental degradation, and environmental degradation can lead to more inequality. And these social imbalances can also make it much harder to find the solutions we need if we're to tackle environmental problems. And just ask any government that has looked at introducing a carbon tax about those issues. So policies that promote happiness are often much gentler on the environment than those that promote economic growth. And as happiness also goes hand in hand with a more pro-social attitude in society, it can also mean that happier societies are more likely to cooperate to find the solutions we need to find if we're to reduce our greenhouse emissions, as well as many other environmental impacts. And so on International Happiness Day, I am more convinced than ever that governments should pursue the greatest happiness for the greatest number as an overarching goal. This is not only worthwhile end in itself, it is also one of the means to many other ends that are all vital for global development.
All right, beautiful. So I think you heard a little optimism there. So now we're going to hear from Makim Sushkin, and here you're going to hear about essentially, I'd like you to think about what is the low-hanging fruit in the work that you're doing around bringing well-being into the conversation.
Hello, everyone. I would like to first thank Planet Happiness, the World Tourism Network, and the International Institute for Peace through Tourism for putting together a webinar on such an important topic as happiness and well-being in tourism, and inviting myself and the forum to participate. My name is Maxim Soshkin, and I am the lead on the forum's Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report. To give you a little background on the World Economic Forum, it is the international organization for public-private cooperation with the stated goal of improving the state of the world. We bring leaders from business, government, civil society, and academia to advance positive change in areas ranging from climate change to global trade. Our aviation, travel, and tourism work revolves around bringing together sector stakeholders to make travel and tourism safe, clean, and inclusive. And well-being and quality of life are inherently part of the forum's and the travel and tourism team's mission. If properly managed, travel and tourism is a driver of economic and social development. It connects communities and cultures all around the world. And people are happier when they're economically secure and are able to travel and experience new things. The devastation the COVID pandemic has caused to travel and tourism reinforces this idea. Well over 100 million travel and tourism-related jobs lost, and entire countries under lockdown, there's a real crisis in well-being. How does all of this tie into our work? Well, quality of life and well-being are highly interconnected with sustainability. And as the tourism sector recovers, it's important that we make sustainability a priority. And not just for its own sake, because it's a matter of long-term competitiveness and resilience. And therefore, we need to account for it in the forum's Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report and Index. The TTCI measures a set of factors and policies that enable the sustainable development of travel and tourism sector, which in turn contributes to the development and competitiveness of a country. The index consists of 4 sub-indexes and 14 pillars, which score a country's business environment, international openness, infrastructure, and the richness of its natural and cultural resources, and more. The TTCI was developed to act as a strategic benchmarking tool for business and governments to develop the travel and tourism sector, highlight the interdependent nature of travel and tourism, and facilitate a multi-stakeholder dialogue about the topic. For the 2021 edition of the index, work is currently underway to make the index more representative of the link between sustainability and competitiveness. To give everyone a better understanding of the direction we're going in, quality infrastructure, pro-tourism business policies, and the richness of a destination's cultural and natural resources are all important for competitiveness. We continue to believe that. However, if you recall, Before the pandemic, the boom in international tourism generated a multitude of challenges for destinations, including overcrowding, cultural and environmental degradation, infrastructure capacity constraints, and affordable housing shortages, issues which will not go away in the post-COVID world. It got to the point that there were mass protests around the cities like Barcelona and Venice against tourism. For many, the industry's benefits were not outweighed by the cost to their quality of life and well-being. These issues also impact visitors. No one wants to go to places where they're not welcome, and as someone who likes to travel, I can attest there's nothing fun about visiting overcrowded sites. However, if factors like environmental sustainability, inclusivity, destination capacity to absorb tourism are taken into account, you can have continued long-term growth in tourism while minimizing risks and preserving assets, and not just natural and cultural resources, but the local community, whose well-being is fundamental for successful destinations. And with this, the sector can continue being the important tool for development and connectivity that it currently is.
Okay, that ends our recorded presentations for this section, and it begins with our first live presentation, which is Luis Gallardo, as he's being queued up to talk to you about how he's bringing the experience of happiness to people and bringing modules for bringing happiness into organizations. I'm really excited for you to hear about this. I want to give another plug to Planet Happiness, and that this is an organization, the first organization that's bringing the happiness movement into tourism, this tourism sector. In the upcoming sessions, you're going to hear from wonderful people, including people who are deeply engaged with Planet Happiness, Jerry Spooner from Vanuatu, and Susan Farhead from the Goldfield. It's absolutely fantastic. I've been working in this field for over 10 years, well, longer than I want to say. And it's absolutely fantastic what Planet Happiness is doing. So let's go ahead and Luis. Yes, beautiful.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Paul, and thank you to the World Trade Organization and everybody organizing this meeting. This is fantastic being here. I'm Luis Gallardo. I'm the founder of the World Happiness Foundation, and the World Happiness Fest actually happening right now for the whole week. So you are more than invited to join us today. We have the whole day activities, and we are going to celebrate International Day of Happiness, looking at suffering from multiple angles. And actually, this is the suffering of the planet is definitely one of the topics that we are going to be exploring in this case tomorrow. But in this case, I want to focus my short talk on something that is very important as we keep focusing on processes, as we keep focusing on elements, on nations. I think that something that really resonates with me is how we improve and how we evolve by focusing on the human being. We cannot achieve fundamental peace if we are not at peace individually. So I think this is my call to action, and this is my key message today. We have to go beyond nations. We have to go beyond structures and processes. So I would actually like to share a short video where I explain what fundamental peace is. I don't know if you see my screen. Yeah, I was trying to, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Do you see my screen? Yeah. with this, I think this is very important that we as individuals and humans of this planet, we understand that we are always trying to achieve freedom, but freedom is really freedom to be who we are, to unleash our whole potential. And this is what I feel tourism really helps, and traveling, because when we go beyond our countries, when we go beyond our cities, we completely change perspective. So tourism really helps to achieve a lot of our freedom to be, especially when we have time to go inside. The second big element is consciousness. And this is the big part missing today in the world, consciousness to expand and evolve. And we are missing consciousness because it's very difficult, because most of it is below the degree of consciousness. We are mostly subconscious. We don't really know what's going on. And that's why traveling and tourism helps so much, because we have to go into ourselves in this case. So I think that freedom is achieved by being, and we have to travel outside. Consciousness is achieved by going inside. And the combination is beautiful, because we can have a journey into ourselves. We can have a journey to the world. And then the third big element, that is when you combine freedom with consciousness and you include happiness, you fundamentally change our human evolution, because happiness is not just important for us, it's important to share. Something that we've learned from all the research is that meaningful relationships are key to happiness, but happiness really means that we can expand, that we can evolve, that we can get connected to ourselves, and we can connect to others, because we're emanating. Our radiance is going to change when we use happiness in order to expand and in order to evolve. So basically today, International Day of Happiness, I just want to celebrate with you. And I want to make this call to action that don't expect many things to change in the world if you don't change yourself. And I feel that we have to go beyond nations. I think nations is great for traveling. It's like, well, I'm going places.
I was really looking forward to
we don't use the right way. That structure is gonna help. It's gonna become just a layer for our own beings, and we have to go deep. So I invite you to travel to yourself and to combine freedom with consciousness and happiness. I'm sure that we all together we're gonna achieve a lot. Thank you so much, Laura, Paul, and I get it back to you.
Thank you, beautiful, Luis. So there's some resources there for how to get engaged with the work that Luis is doing, and I can tell you that people coming away from that work, they are often transformed, as we are transformed through travel, and as we hope that the rest of this meeting will transform you. So there we go on, Paul. I hand it back to you. Thank you so much to everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks, Laura and everybody. Ajay, as the moderator chair of the second session, let's hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Laura. That was a very interesting session. And, you know, the technical glitches notwithstanding, I think the message has come across loud and clear. So we move into the second session, which is really checking on the linkages between the well-being measurements, sustainability in destination planning, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I think there is no confusion in anybody's mind on the value that tourism brings to the planet. Because as we all know, and as our Prime Minister keeps saying often, terrorism divides, tourism unites. And that's the main purpose of tourism, to bring people together. Because very often, conflict is generated by the fear of the other. And if you travel with an open mind and a gentle heart, you all discover that the things that unite us, the things that are common between us, far outweigh the things that divide us. So when it's done right, tourism can create local jobs, thereby alleviating poverty. It can protect sensitive ecosystems, rejuvenate cultural traditions, and enhance host satisfaction while providing a wholesome visitor experience. Sustainable tourism, therefore, can be defined as tourism that satisfies present needs while protecting and enhancing opportunities for the future, balancing the needs of tourists with those of the destination. There's an old Indian saying which says that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we hold it in trust for our children. That's what sustainability is all about. Sustainable human happiness and well-being is dependent on the sustainability of nature. As Dr. Talib Rifai said in his opening remarks, sustainability is about sustainability of the human race on planet Earth. It's not about increasing the GDP. It's about increasing well-being. As Mahatma Gandhi said a long, long time ago, the earth has enough for everyone's needs, but not enough for their greed. That's the critical issue that we all need to understand and address. So well-being and happiness and quality of life, we said we were going to use these terms interchangeably, can really be simply summarized as well-being within ourselves, well-being in the global family, and well-being within our common home, planet Earth. The Sustainable Development Goals and the indicators to quantify and measure the achievement of these goals or the progress made leave out certain critical subjective indicators pertaining primarily to satisfaction, to happiness, or a sense of well-being, coupled with a sense of responsibility for the future. We have an excellent panel today. The only person who could not join us is Gloria Guevara of the WTTC. As Paul explained to you, she had to travel at short notice. But we have a wonderful panel. We have Mr. Dorji Dharadul, who's the Director General Tourism Council of Bhutan. Bhutan, as we all know, was the pioneer, was the originator of the concept of global national happiness, which is a much more fundamental, a much more valid way of measuring the progress of countries. And gross national happiness far, far outweighs the importance of GDP or gross domestic product. So we'll hear from Dorji on his experiences and Bhutan's experiences with pioneering this and how they're taking it forward. We also have my old friend Jeffrey Lipman on this panel, who's been a champion of combating climate change ever since I've known him. He is the founder of SunX Strong, the SunX Strong Universal Network, and has always been an outspoken person whenever the issue of climate change and sustainability has come up. We also have Professor Larry Dwyer, who's a professor of travel and tourism economics. He's an author who's published a number of books, publications, research papers, is very well respected across the world for his work. And he is going to tell us on how we can use these measurements to define what is real happiness and well-being. So without further ado, may I invite Mr. Dorji Dharadul, Director General of the Tourism Council of Bhutan, to address all of us, make his presentation, and tell us Bhutan's experience from the beginning until now carrying forward. Please come in, Dorji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ajay. Thank you so much. And I also like to thank Planet Happiness, Dr. Paul Rogers, the Happiness Alliance, and the World Tourism Network, bringing us all together on this very International Day of Happiness from across the globe. So thank you so much. And in my presentation, basically, I will try to say that our tourism, in Bhutan's tourism, is very much grounded on the on a unique development philosophy of personal happiness, which has been already touched by some of the earlier speakers. So it will be very brief. Okay, so
it's 1 o'clock.
Sorry, slide. I'm not moving. Hello. I'm sorry for this. Hello. You all can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
fine.
I'm sorry, but the slide is not moving, so I don't know if the organizer can help me. Anyway,
if you click the right click or up and down arrow or right and left arrow on your computer.
Yeah, I'm doing this, but
if you would like to share, Dorji, I can put it up for you.
Pardon?
If you would like to stop sharing your screen, I can bring up. Yeah.
Okay, I did that. So anyway, let me start in the interest of time. So Bhutan's development philosophy since has been very much grounded on the well-being and happiness of not only its citizens, not only of the human beings, but even we go beyond the human civilizations, and also it goes to the all sentient beings. Basically, that is our basis. And actually, we can go as far back as 16th century, when the founding father of a nation in 16th century, he is supposed to say that if the state is not able to guarantee wellness and happiness of its citizens, then there is no place for a government. So that was the basis. And then since the start of our very development, so the modern development in our country, we adopted principle, development philosophy called gross national happiness, which is an alternative development. Thank you very much for the it's an alternative development against, for the gross product. So now just a small, this slide basically says, of course, you all are all expert here. Basically, here we are talking about advanced development philosophy. What we are pursuing is, we are not really pursuing only the economic aspect, but more importantly, we are to develop, with the. So basically, for us, it's not only the important. It's not only the goal, but basically it covers all tangible and intangible aspects of the human needs. So ultimate objective is for any human enterprise or activity is the happiness and the well-being of a human being or of the world itself. Of course, the details, there are so many details. It is in itself, it become a big science now. The measuring of the happiness, measuring of our development basis on the gross national happiness is become a big science and art. Like, for instance, we have the 4 pillars, we have 9 domains, we have 33 indicators, we have 123 variables. So basically, the happiness can be measured. Happiness in the development can be measured. So can I move slide? So basically now, I think I'll go. I think we have already lost some time, so I'll go straight into tourism now. Now, tourism from the very beginning. In fact, the tagline of a Bhutan tourism is happiness is a place, as you can see here. Of course, we have this flower, which is a blue poppy, which is our national flower. But the tagline is happiness is for Bhutan tourism. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, so maybe a step further, back, please. One slide back. I'm sorry for this. I'm not able to control. Okay, actually, I wanted to previous one. Yeah. Yes. So when our tourism actually started in early 70s, along with the at the same time when our country started to open. From the day one, when we started tourism, it was our 4th king, His Majesty, the 4th king was at the helm, and he actually decided that our tourism policy, so-called the high value, low volume. Now, basically, what this high value, low volume means, it basically ensures the sustainability. It is very much grounded on this principle, and basically it also tries to avoid the so-called the mass tourism, the over tourism, which as of today are now the whole world is actually concerned with this new the tourism practices that we have been following. So next please. Sorry, next please. Now this is just a small simple illustration of how our tourism policy of high value low volume is grounded here. It is basically national happiness. And then when you talk about high value, we are talking about quality over quantity. We are talking about less is more. We are talking about that it goes beyond revenue receipts, and we are also talking about the immersive experience. When you talk about high value in tourism, low volume, we are talking about avoiding mass tourism, over tourism, and also target our tourists as a mindful, responsible, and they are also guided. And then it narrows down to offering a product. So basically, when you talk about high value tourism, any tourist that comes to Bhutan, they will be given a really exclusive experience. And then, of course, this will finally lead to the sustainable situation. So basically what we're saying is, to have a happiness, the world has to be sustainable. And this is the philosophy, actually. So therefore, our tourism tagline is happiness is the place. So finally, it goes down to whatever we do, we try to guarantee or ensure happiness to our visitors. Now, these are just some slides basically saying how we actually operationalize the happiness in tourism. Our policy is very strong on this happiness. It's basically talking about sustainability, the high value tourism, then the tagline, which I have already touched on. Next please. Then a slide, sorry. No, I mean, yes, thank you. So here, something, happiness is very much grounded on the sustainability. So to ensure sustainable tourism, we have these two unique practices that is being practiced since the start of our tourism in early 70s. We have so-called sustainable development fee. Every tourist that comes to Bhutan have to pay the so-called sustainable fee. As of today, the rate is around USD $65 per person per day. And fees directly goes to the upkeep of our sustainability. I mean, this is one aspect. The second aspect of our sustainable tourism in practice is any tourist that comes to Bhutan, I mean, the tour has to be pre-arranged, and also they have to be pay the minimum daily package rate. Certain fixed amount has to be paid in advance before they get visa. So therefore, we actually monitor and we also target, I mean, which tourists are coming here. So basically, to say that we are very much mindful of this sustainable tourism. So therefore, everything is kind of regulated and monitored, basically to pursue our objective of sustainable tourism. And of course, at the end of the day, it is the happiness and the well-being of the whole population and also the world. Please, next. Next, please. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, then, okay, let me just talk about a little bit going forward. Now, when we, of the COVID now, going forward, especially to pursue this happiness agenda in the tourism, what we are saying is some few points here. Now, even in terms of the product, we are trying to, it is a global trend that wellness, well-being is going to come into the limelight. Similarly, Bhutan also, we pursue this. And similarly, this tourism in spiritualism, the agro-tourism, eco-tourism, community tourism, agro-tourism. These are all some of the new products that is going to sync with the post-COVID situation. And basically, this is also going to gear towards the happiness. Next, please. Okay, okay. This just, I think, as earlier speakers have also, especially has touched upon this. Now, COVID situation, what has happened is, as of today, we have only one active case. Of course, the total figures are there in this slide, and that only one. So basically, what has happened is, we have actually, under the visionary leadership, our kings and all, we have been able to control and manage the COVID-19 pandemic so far. I mean, touch wood, I mean, so far we have been so successful. Everything is under control, and this has been highly appreciated by the global media. For instance, even the Farid Zakira has covered this very elaborately in his new GPS. And of course, very recently we had this visit of Assistant Secretary General of UN to a country, and even the last says, I mean, this is what she has said: if only there are 193 avatars of His Majesty the King of Bhutan, world would be a much better place. Basically, she was trying to highlight how Bhutan, grounded on this gross national happiness development philosophy, everything seems to be so far working in the right direction. Maybe I think I'll stop here. I think I'm going too long. I'm sorry for this.
No, thank you, Dorji. We will. There are a few questions that have come in, and we'll come back to them at the Q&A session. This is just a reminder to all our viewers. whatever questions you have, please put them in the chat box. We'll come back to them and we'll take them up then. May I now invite Jeffrey to come in. Jeffrey, sustainability predicated on the existential need to urgently address climate change has been your mission for as long as I've known you. SDG 13 also talks of the need to urgently take action to combat climate change. But we have this divide, and I see this every day, divide between the developing and the developing countries, saying who is responsible and who should be doing more and who should be doing what first. Now, this is a question that really needs to be answered. How do we balance the need for development with the need to control the damage before we can even begin to heal planet Earth? Over to you, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Before you start my presentation, you've got my presentation. You can have that now. It's okay. I was going to say, before you start my presentation.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm here with you, and maybe it would be just as easy if I make my remarks here.
Yes, I think that should be fine. Please go ahead, Jeffrey.
And talking to your point, AJ, for a long time, this issue of sustainability has been on the global agenda. My friend and mentor for 25 years, Maurice Strong, who really is the architect of today's sustainable development goals, was identifying climate change as an existential issue for humanity 50 years ago. So the balancing of sustainability and happiness and well-being is really important. But if we don't fix climate change, all of this will be deck chairs on the Titanic, rearranging the deck chairs, but the iceberg is still there. And so what I want to say today, and I shall keep it very tight, I have no slides. What I want to say today is that the issue of climate change has now become the dominant existential crisis. Existential means if we don't fix that, there won't be any planet, so nobody is going to be happy and there will be no well-being, because the whole UN Paris agenda is based on the fact that we have to keep our temperatures globally down no more than 1.5 degrees by 2050. That is a hard stop for happiness. It's a hard stop for humanity. Now, what we've been trying to do at SunX Malta, and I want to link this with the happiness agenda, that was the basic question. What we've been trying to do is to develop a systems approach. And that systems approach is designed to help all travel and tourism companies and all travel and tourism communities find their own unique way to help keep the global temperature down to 1.5 degrees. That's it. There's no more complexity. If we don't do that, we can make all the declarations we like. We can stand up at all of the meetings and say how important it is that we are changing. If we don't change operationally, we will not be making our contribution to a common global cause. And we've developed a systems approach to this. It has 3 pillars. The first one is we have built, working with the WTTC over the course of last year and working closely with specialists in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we have built a registry. And the registry is linked into the global registry that UNFCCC has put in place. And this was quite a job. We had to develop a platform. We had to create the technology alignment with the UNFCCC. We had to spend a lot of money, and we've had to hire some people to run this registry. And any travel and tourism company can, and any community can join the registry and can get help on how to create their own unique, and I keep expressing this word unique plan, because AJ, what you do in India and what Subish retreats do in India are going to be very, very different than the tourism people in London, which is a huge tourism center, have to do to adapt to this 1.5 requirement. So we've built this registry, it's in place, and last week, the UN climate chief, Patricia Espinosa, actually formally wrote to Gloria Guevara, who we're working closely with on this, with WTTC, and said, this registry is an ideal sectoral connecting point to the global registry, the UN climate portal that UNFCCC is running. I want to repeat that. The head of the UN Climate Agency has now formally recognized this registry as a place which can help travel and tourism companies and communities to make their own plans over a 3-decade period. This isn't something that will happen because of this conference or any other conference. The second thing we've done is we've put in place a climate-friendly travel education framework. We've defined climate-friendly travel as being low carbon, SDG linked, because that is all of the UN systems changes in humanity, poverty and life on land and life under sea. You have to link to that. And thirdly, Paris 1.5 aligned, low carbon, SDG linked, Paris 1.5 aligned. And we've started an education system in schools and the first ever, world first climate friendly travel diploma, in which we're bringing students together in Malta, which has been our partner and sponsor for all this work that we're doing, the government of Malta. And we are conducting a course with 300 hours of teaching this year, which is designed to pull all components of climate-friendly travel and to start to build a cadre every year for the next 10 years of young people who we will send out to work with travel and tourism companies. And our goal is to have 100,000 strong climate champions across all UN states by 2030. This isn't about talk, this is about action. And last but
yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey. We need to wrap this up. Yeah.
I'm very close to finishing because I want to answer the question: how do we link with the work that's going on with the Planet's Happiness Alliance? And we've created a network of SDG 17 agreements, which is the UN system for agreements, with like-minded organizations. And I'm choosing my words here, not to join each other's organizations, but to co-promote a compatible transformation agenda. And we see this as a way to create a win-win alliance that will incorporate the community-focused happiness vision and metrics into our climate-friendly travel system. And that will strengthen the plan, development and registration of companies and communities. That's the whole issue. And the core ethos that goes into the 2030 and the 2050 community and company ambitions. That's the end. I want to make just those 3 points.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And I think what you've said is very, very relevant, because to me, the most important SDG is SDG 17, which is to form partnerships to achieve these goals. None of us is going to be able to do it alone. And that's something that we all need to concentrate on. Let's move on to, thanks, Jeffrey. We'll come back. There will be some questions that you'll need to answer in the Q&A. But let's move on to Professor Larry Dwyer. Larry's held professorships at several universities in Australia and Europe. He's a very well-respected scholar. He's done a lot of research on tourism economics, and he has a very interesting talk, which again focuses on the need to go beyond what is evident, and how do we build sustainability into the tourism ethos. Over to you, Professor Larry Dwyer.
Thank you very much, Ajay, and thank you for the organisers and the invitation to talk to you today. My presentation will be somewhat different because I'm not an industry practitioner. I'm a university researcher, and I work on those areas that really interest me. And in recent years, I've become quite interested in the aims and objectives of the wider happiness well-being literature. I'm only going to focus on a few research interests because obviously there are an enormous number of research issues that arise, and already, as many of the speakers have mentioned, they've mentioned topics that would be prime for further research. But let me just talk about some of the issues that I'm finding quite interesting at the moment to look at. According to this widely accepted beyond GDP approach, which is supported by many Nobel Prize winning economists, the emphasis is on well-being as an essential dimension of sustainable development. And most of you would be familiar with that. Now, by implication, tourism stakeholders should pay serious attention to the implications of the beyond GDP approach, with its application of a well-being lens to guide and assess destination planning and development. I've nominated there 3 issues which I think are very important, which arise from this emphasis on well-being. One is that well-being lens can inform us about the directions of tourism planning and development that enhance resident well-being. In much of the discussion that I've found in the tourism literature, there isn't a discussion of well-being. There's discussion of lots of other issues, but you'll be hard-pressed to find the concepts happiness, well-being, quality of life mentioned in much of the tourism sustainability literature. Destination competitiveness is another area where I think well-being issues have been sadly neglected. The ultimate aim of achieving a competitive tourism industry is to enhance the well-being of residents. We don't build a tourism industry for tourists, we build it for residents. Hopefully, if we deliver a good product, then tourists will come back and they'll speak well of the destination. But the tourism industry is created for resident well-being. And there seems to be an assumption, though, that if we're competitive in lots of other ways, that will enhance well-being. And I think that assumption is questionable. And I think there's a fine set of research issues that can involve the role that well-being can play in the destination competitiveness literature. Tourism participation and the third issue is the global tourism industry and its role in achieving and maintaining well-being associated with the 2030 SDG agenda. There seems to be an assumption also in the literature that if we can achieve various sustainable development goals, then by implication, well-being and happiness will follow. Well, I question that assumption. At least it needs analysis. And tourism participation in the agenda must go beyond impact assessment to include a concern for well-being. And I think that that is also a sadly neglected area. I'm now going to mention some challenges which I believe emerge from the beyond GDP approach, and I've mentioned them as issues which which require the researcher to go beyond research business as usual. The first one is beyond perceptions. Much of the tourism literature has focused on subjective measures of tourist and resident well-being, using relatively easily collected survey data on perceptions and satisfactions. In fact, most of it, I think, or the balance of it is focused on tourists' satisfaction and their perceptions of the tourism product. But I believe that more robust measures of current and future well-being beyond resident perceptions are necessary if resident values are to link with the different drivers of well-being. Another issue is competitiveness. As I mentioned before, I think that well-being issues have been badly neglected. There's an enormous literature on competitiveness, and I believe that we need much more focus on incorporating changes in well-being as indicative, or enhancing well-being is indicative of a truly competitive destination. Then there's beyond the here and now. To properly assess tourism's role in sustainable development, researchers must focus on the links to well-being of changes in the quantity and quality of capital stocks over time. And this is another area that I believe has been badly neglected by tourism researchers. They have the three links, the Boolean diagram with the economic, the social, and the environmental, and yet that's a static conception. What we need is a dynamic conception that tells us how well-being can be transmitted from the present to the future. And that requires an analysis of the changes in capital stocks, the economic, the environmental, the social, and the human. I haven't got time to go into those now, but I believe that that is also a badly neglected area. Then there's beyond the market. Well, we know, yes, beyond the market prices of human capital, social capital, natural capital are often unavailable. And even if they are, they're often inappropriate because prices don't reflect true value. So I believe that there's an enormous amount of work that can be done in the whole measurement area, and that these measures must be developed, which include all the costs and benefits of development. And that involves what economists call shadow pricing, where there's a serious effort made to develop the true costs of development. And I think that is an issue that really needs a lot more work in the tourism area. Then there's beyond weak sustainability. Have I got?
Larry, we need to speed it up just a little.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, look, all of those issues there are issues that I believe the tourism researchers have something to say. And if tourism researchers can start to address these types of issues, I believe that they can make a genuine contribution and a much bigger contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals agenda than they are in fact making. It'll be a win-win, a win for tourism and a win for broader addressing of the Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. This is fascinating, and it's been a very interesting session. We've had three different points of view. The first is the gross national happiness concept pioneered by Bhutan. We have Jeffrey, who's a climate warrior. We have Larry, who's talking about the need to change our whole approach to tourism, and a very fundamental thing that he said, that tourism should be aimed at the well-being of the hosts. It's not about tourists, it's about hosts. So that's what sustainability is all about. Thank you all for your insights into this. And we will have questions and answers at the end. So without further ado, let me hand it back to the organizers, because the next session is kind of overdue. Thank you very much. We'll be back in the Q&A. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ajay, and everybody. Jürgen, are you going to chair this this next session?
Okay, I thought I was supposed to do the Q&A.
Okay, all right. Well, don't worry. We're running a little bit behind time. This next session is focused on how destinations can use the happiness agenda for their branding and marketing advantage. Jerry, are you in? I know you've been having connectivity problems. Are you in, Jerry? If not, then I'll come in with let's go to one of the videos that we have. I think I just need to mess around with my computer again. Just a moment. Exit full screen. Sorry, everybody. We got some more of these little technical issues just to get used to. Right. So we have a presentation now from Elke Dens, who works with Visit
Hello.
Flanders
I'm really happy
in Belgium.
to be here today. My name is Elke Dens, and I will be speaking on behalf of Visit Flanders. At Visit Flanders, we believe in the positive and transformative power of tourism. We believe tourism is not a goal on its own, but it's a mean that leads to a higher purpose, the quality of life. We believe that tourism can contribute to the quality of life by providing meaning. Meaning to the visitor, of course, but also to the place itself and people that live in the place. To the whole visitor economy, the tourism ecosystem, as we call it. We represent this ecosystem by a tree, a lime tree, like you will find many of them in Flanders. So it's real. And we believe the ecosystem of tourism is really a living system with a lot of interdependence. Our model is based on a regenerative approach in which tourism nurtures a place, if we do it well, of course. And if we do it well, we will see a whole destination flourishing. Thanks to our guide on this regenerative thinking, Anna Pollack, we use the term flourishing because we want our trees to flourish just like we want our destination to flourish, hence flourishing destinations. So we provide meaning, first of all, to the visitor. And by providing meaning to the visitor, we want to have a positive impact on her or his quality of life. And this does not necessarily mean that we want to make them happy in the strict sense of the word. For example, in this place, we call it Passchendaele, people get really silent. Sometimes they become much more grateful than ever before. And I have heard stories of people that couldn't talk about this trip even 2 years after the trip. Some people, they changed jobs. Some people reunited with friends and family. So that is the impact that we can have on the visitor's quality of life. And in the same way, these visitors have an impact on the life of people that live here, on the residents. Residents sometimes even call them friends. And now with COVID-19, we have seen this even more than ever before, how much they miss the meaning of connections.
Flanders, on these battlegrounds of the First World War, here too, things are quite different nowadays. We lack the usual liveliness. We lack company. But most of all, we lack you, our visitors. Seriously, we miss you.
Something I miss now is people from the whole world coming to find their special grave and to grieve. As you can see at the moment, there's only cows here around the cemetery, that's all.
This is the visitor's book. See, most of these people are Canadians, pages after pages. And this is Corona. So we're really looking forward for these people to come back and just to be friends again.
The things we miss about you. Our police even misses giving the Aussies fines for driving on the wrong side of the road.
I also miss like New Zealanders doing a haka under the Manning Gate.
One of the things I miss is the Australians are coming here and they always call me mate.
I miss the friendship with the English.
I miss even the weird traditions like putting bread on their sandwiches. We miss you.
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 We really, really, really miss you.
And this friendship of visitors is also very meaningful for our entrepreneurs. We can never forget that businesses usually start from a passion, from something that people really want to share, whether it's a beer or a bet. And of course, the money that they get through tourism will also enhance their quality of life. But it's not only about money. And last but not least, I would like to introduce you to our placeholders. These are usually the people that sit on a bench under the tree, reflecting on life in every aspect. They are actually the gardeners of the place and the soul of the place, and they keep it alive for future generations. And we think that a DMO should also be considered as a kind of placeholder, balancing between the interest of the visitor, the entrepreneur, and the residents, providing meaning to all, and thereby also making sure that the quality of life enhances for everyone. So this was just a brief introduction to the journey of Flourishing Flanders. And if you want to know more about it, please contact me anytime. And as soon as we can travel again, you are very welcome to visit Flanders and to enhance your quality of life and ours. So together we can plant a whole forest. I look forward to it. Bye-bye.
That's great. That's LK from Visit Flanders. Can I ask again? Is Jerry Spooner, the DG from Vanuatu Department of Tourism? Jerry, I know you've been having connectivity problems. Are you in? Okay. So what we'll do then is press on with a presentation from Anna Pollock.
Hello and happy Happiness Day, everyone. I'm Anna Pollock, founder of the consultancy Conscious Travel, and I've been working with tourism destinations for well over 45 years. So let me begin by thanking and congratulating the organizers of this event, especially Paul. Thank you for inviting me to make a brief contribution. For almost half my working life, I've been questioning the dominance of financial quantitative indicators of success, believing that tourism could do so much more for nature, culture, and society than simply focusing on the numbers, the cash, and the tax revenues. So I'm here today to celebrate what I hope will be a milestone on the journey towards a better tourism. I believe our survival as a sector, and for that matter, as a species, demands deep systems change in the way we humans understand, and our role in the world, our place in the world, and how we interact with each other and the rest of life on planet Earth. Now, students of that tough subject called systems change know there are only two levers that could help move a system as big as tourism. One, the relatively easy one, is to change its purpose. And the second, a much harder task, is to change the dominant paradigm, the narrative, or in short, that bundle of assumptions, values, and beliefs that shape what we consider to be our purpose. We all know that until recently, the primary goal of most tourism destinations around the world each year was to grow the number of visitors, the gross spending, and the contribution to GDP. Two forces have interrupted that pattern and challenged that conviction. First came over-tourism. At least after a decade of consistent growth, it was becoming clear that in popular areas, too much tourism could actually hurt a destination. The second force was nature, in the form of an invisible microbe that managed to stop tourism in its tracks and kick it right back to the same performance levels that were recorded in the 1990s, while also showing us that we were not as resilient as we thought we were. Furthermore, our quest for always wanting was making more of us unhappy. So I'm here to celebrate and applaud the organizers of the conference, and especially the authors of the excellent publication, The Happiness Policy Handbook. It's well researched, it's balanced, it's very readable. Do buy one and make sure every politician in your neighborhood finds one on his desk. The focus of my work for the past decade has been on moving us beyond sustainability towards regeneration. That's a very complex and a new topic that seems to be attracting lots of attention recently, but not much understanding. To practice regeneration, though, which is all about systems change, you have to pull the other lever and change the way we see tourism, the way we understand it, not as a mechanical conveyor belt of separate functions, all in boxes, but as a living system, and a complex one at that, behaving more like a forest or a garden. Tourism is a network, a web of self-organizing, independent businesses. And the truth is, no one's in charge and you cannot control it. But like all life, its purpose is to thrive and flourish. And for that reason, sensing the happiness of the host population as well as the guest is a good idea. If happy, host populations are more likely to offer a warm welcome, be willing to share their lives with strangers, and give excellent service. Happy guests then go home and rave about their trip and plan another one, or persuade a friend to go there too. But it's not that simple, is it? We are learning from the effect of the pandemic. Mental health problems, for example, can, like cancer, like COVID-19, be asymptomatic. What's really going on can be hidden by a smile of normality. So happiness is just one measure of well-being. Which brings me back to the second lever that's needed to change our system, which, let's face it, is currently very self-absorbed, very anthropocentric. We fail to look at the whole living system, all life, of which we humans with just 2 legs and an oversized brain and an equally oversized sense of our own importance, but just one part. It's not only our human happiness and well-being that matter. In fact, COVID has driven home the lesson that we cannot be healthy on an unhealthy planet, nor can we be happy on an unhappy planet. Well, not for long, anyway. So these observations are not meant as criticism, because I see that Laura and her team understand these connections. But I feel I have to add a small note of caution, because I know there's a tendency in tourism, which we know loves to be happy all of the time. There's a tendency to grab the easy headlines and run with them. There's a fascination with indices and league tables, which by their very nature suggest that utterly unique places can be compared in some way. So despite these cautions, I truly believe the goal shift from more to greater well-being is here to stay. And provided we can see its role in changing the whole system, it will have a lasting beneficial effect, and we might just survive and be happy too. So all the best for this great movement. And thank you once again, Paul and Laura, for having me on this event to share some thoughts.
That's wonderful there from Anna, who, as many of you know, is a real visionary and doing excellent work around the planet, advising different destinations. The book she referred to in there for everybody to buy his or her government, local government officials, is the Happiness Policy Handbook. And if you visit happycounts.org, the Happiness Alliance website, or come into the Planet Happiness website and then go into the Happiness Alliance website, you'll find the book there, and perhaps we can share that in the chat. I've just been sending messages backwards and forwards with Jerry Spooner in Vanuatu, and unfortunately he's unable to have the connectivity to join. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Chris Flynn from down south there in Sydney, from the World Tourism and Cultural Heritage, the World Tourism Association for Cultural Heritage. Chris, do join us and Here you come. Great. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, Paul. I'm just trying to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Is that working?
Yep, sure is.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks, Paul, for inviting me to be part of this great event. And I'd like to wish everybody who's listening from all the four corners of the world, have a wonderful International Day of Happiness. So greetings from a very, very wet Sydney, Australia. My name, as Paul said, is Chris Flynn. I'm the President and CEO of the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage, or WTAC. And my presentation today, surprise, surprise, is going to be on tourism, culture, and happiness. Now, I believe I only have about 5 minutes, and I know we're running a little bit late. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump straight into this. Tourism has long been seen as a way to help destinations drive sustainable economic growth. We know that. But the historical perception has always been of a benign industry that generates value for intangible or soft assets, such as culture and heritage. These assets have traditionally been used as a way to attract visitors, a unique way that separates destinations from each other. So they're a resource to drive growth and to drive profit, to build businesses and create jobs. So culture and heritage was really the platform that fueled the modern era of tourism promotion. And when we actually look back at some of these ancient posters that we've seen, the pyramids, the beautiful floating city of Venice, and just about everywhere around the world, what you actually find and what you actually see is what they're promoting is what's unique to that particular culture, to that particular environment, to that particular destination. And it's the same today. So as tourism grew, so did the opportunity to expand the visitor experience. So the thought process behind that is more experiences equals more visitors. More visitors equals more revenue. More revenue builds a healthier economy. And a healthy economy improves lives and livelihoods. Or does it? But visitors also consume precious and often fragile resources. They generate costs in waste, infrastructure damage, and of course they disrupt the social fabric and cultural fabric of a destination. So as tourism grew, it became the victim of its own success. In 2019, we produced 1.5 billion international tourist arrivals. Now let me give you some mental arithmetic just to give you an indication of what that means. If I was to take 1 million seconds away from today, I would end up with about 12 days. If I take 1 billion seconds away from today, I end up with 33 years. So when we start talking about 1.5 billion and 4 million tourist arrivals a day, what does it look like? It looks like this. Not exactly in the floating city now, is it, Venice? Not really what you see on the postcards. Or here in Barcelona, tourists go home. Tourists are welcome, locals are not. They can't afford to live there. There's less than 50,000 Venetians now living in Venice because tourism has driven them out. When we look at the Taj Mahal, record crowds, as you can see. Yet the suburbs that surround it are some of the worst in India because nothing goes back to the community. And what about Rapa Nui, Easter Island? They have a population of about 6,000 people. In 2019, they generated just over 100,000 visitors. Now, wherever you are today, just think, could your country cope with 15 times the population in tourists? I doubt it. This is why we get this kind of desecration. And of course, that fuels unhappiness in a destination. And wherever we look in the world, our towns, our villages, it seems to be the same story. And it doesn't matter where you live. If your house happens to be where someone can get the perfect shot for their Instagram account, hey, who's going to climb the fence? They all are. So the problem was, or is, that the equation that's been used in the past is profit over people and place, when what we should be looking for is prosperity. And when we look at a different equation and we invest in people and place, we build prosperity. And the sheer nature of prosperity is about sharing. It's about community. It's about giving back. And when that happens, magic happens. And we start to see a lift, a different feel. We start to see and build pride in our communities. We start to celebrate who we are as people and share that experience with our visitors because we want them to celebrate with us. Now, you might think from the images I've just shown you that we're talking here mostly about community tourism, small little pockets, but that's not the case. I'm speaking to you from Sydney, Australia, and every year we have our own festival that's designed to build pride. It's called Vivid. And this is where we light up the city in a million different ways. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm lucky enough to live here. Now, this attracts many visitors from overseas, many visitors from interstate, but the vast majority of people who consume this are local people, people like me, who visit this city and see it in a different light and feel proud to be part of this community. And being proud and pride drives happiness. So in the future, it should be about celebrating our historical past, about respecting our sacred sites and beliefs, treasuring our natural beauty, and preserving our unique cultural ancestry. Why? Because we're protecting their future. Thank you. That's me done, Paul.
Wonderful. Thanks. Thanks very much for those excellent images and remarks, Chris, and for the wonderful work that Watch is doing to improve the management of destinations and the promotion of culture and cultural heritage. So to conclude this third session, everybody can see that what we're doing is moving from the well-being agenda and its relevance to destinations and destination planning, and then looking at different approaches that destinations are able to take to carry this agenda forward. So thanks again to all the presenters there. I would now like to pass over to Dr. Talib Rifai for the next session, which looks at the competitiveness angle of happiness coming into destinations. Talib, are you ready? Over to you. Thank you.
I think I am. Thank you so much, Paul. This last session is about concluding the whole thoughts that we have been discussing now. Let me start by saying that I'm very, very happy, very proud to be part of your work, Paul. You've been great in trying to put all of us together here. Now, I have heard two things that are very, very important. One is to go beyond GDP. That's very, very important, because what we're talking about here is a concept that goes beyond money, beyond profit, which is what the tourism as an economic industry is all about. Now, but the other thing is about sustainability. As I said before, sustainability is not just about protecting and freezing things as they are. Sustainability is not conflict with growth or progress. The story of mankind is about progress and growth. Who said that the island that Manhattan was more beautiful before New York was built, or that Venice as an island was nicer before Venice was built. We need to be brave in engaging with progress and growth, but do it in a responsible way, in a sustainable way, one that protects our environment, protects our society, protects everybody. I believe that domestic tourism, for example, is a key to all of this. A country that's not enjoyed, a place, a destination that's not enjoyed by its own people cannot and should not be enjoyed by anybody else from outside. That's what the society is all about. That's what concentrating on our people and society is all about. Because a tourist is not just a blonde, blue-eyed person coming from Mars to us. It's about engaging with our culture, engaging with our people. It's about our people. You're right. I heard that being said so many times today, that the tourism is about the society, not about the visitor. It's about the resident. That's more important than anybody else. I therefore would like to promote the concept of domestic tourism, especially in developing countries, where domestic tourism is not seen as part of tourism yet, because it doesn't bring in hard currency, or because it doesn't bring balance of trade, but it does keep businesses alive, and it does keep jobs alive. More importantly, there's the pride and the confidence and the beauty of one's place before we share it with others. That's what I wanted to say to start with. Now let's start our panel. I'm not sure everybody's here, but let me see. Suzanne Fayed, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Suzanne. Okay, Suzanne, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Susan.
Yep, I'll just share my screen. Hello, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you all today. And I'd particularly like to thank the event organisers for the opportunity to present the happiness and wellbeing work underway for the Central Victorian Goldfields World Heritage Bid. Before I begin, though, I'd just like to acknowledge the many traditional owners of country, which includes the region I'm talking about today, and pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging. And I also acknowledge that I'm presenting from the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung today. The Central Victorian Goldfields is located in the state of Victoria in southeastern Australia. The campaign to inscribe the goldfields on the World Heritage List has been in development for over 30 years. However, it's now on the way to being realised with the support and leadership of the region's 13 local governments. These local governments collectively represent almost 500,000 people and cover an area of over 40,000 square kilometres. World Heritage is a high-profile platform that is bringing diverse partners together to build the capacity of the region to tackle local issues and broaden bid outcomes. And I should mention conservation goes without saying. The collective vision for the bid is to secure World Heritage listing to share the extraordinary story of the goldfields with people from across the world, but importantly, to use it to create social, cultural and economic opportunities for every community and person across the region, which is a great aspiration, but the question for us was how. While we know the goldfields are significant, the full potential of the region is relatively untapped, and the region has many existing challenges which also pose challenges for the bid. We know that many parts are among the most socioeconomic disadvantaged areas in Australia. And because of the region's socioeconomic challenges, we also know that capacity for local resilience is impacted. And COVID has just been another example of this. The bushfires and COVID are two examples in Australia. Large areas of the region are experiencing stagnant growth and for some population decline. Experience in other disadvantaged areas shows that World Heritage listing can bring unique opportunities for communities, but this is mostly when it's harnessed for this purpose from the outset. To try and address these issues, we are delivering a sustainable tourism project that includes surveying local communities, to identify areas of need and how tourism can contribute to changing this. Planet Happiness is part of the consultant team, and I won't lie, happiness in terms of tourism is a very difficult concept for some to understand. But when we unpacked it, the wellbeing agenda aligned perfectly with our vision for the bid. We brought together the 13 local government partners with Planet Happiness, the Happiness Alliance and the National Trust to deliver a happiness index survey across our region. Launched today, the campaign has followed the Planet Happiness 10-step process. It's been shaped to suit our local environment by the local governments, regional tourism boards and other key stakeholders. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, it uses convenient sampling and digitally based engagement. Here's our campaign video. Through our regional partnership, we're stepping up to shine a light on our region to target investment where it's most needed. And we're also benchmarking so that we know how we can make improvements and measure that along the way. We can't wait to learn something completely new about our communities, and we're really eager to work with everyone to build a more meaningful future. Thank you again for the opportunity to share our experiences with you today, and I wish you all a happy International Day of Happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. That was very, very insightful. Particularly what I take out of that is great place to visit is a great place for people to live in. I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind, because if you live in a great way, you're happy. If you're happy, you communicate that happiness to your visitors. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Thank you so much, Susan. Paul? Paul, are you there, Paul?
Yep, I'm here, Talib. Great.
Okay. Please, thanks, Paul, the turn is yours.
Great presentation there. Okay, thank you. Hello again, everyone. I think we've enjoyed, you'll agree, we've enjoyed many excellent presentations, and I'm sure you'll agree a conclusion of many of them is that our planet and our national economies, as well as our global tourism industry, are stressed and vulnerable at this pandemic time like never before. And it's clear we need to do things differently to save and regenerate our planet and our ecosystems, to breathe new life into our economies, our societies, and of course our tourism industry. And in this search to do things differently, it seems to me that as peoples of all shades and colour, we need to look at our own core values. After all, if we can't look after each other, how can we expect people to look after our planet? Because it is only people that will achieve this, and achieve this by working together. In 1993, when I started out on my PhD on what is ecotourism and is Nepal's Sagarmatha Mount Everest National Park an example of ecotourism, one of the first industry sustainability reports I read was by the Federation of Nature and National Parks of Europe. and it was called Loving Them to Death. So, slide, yeah, here we go, thanks, sorry. That was almost 30 years ago, and while many excellent practices to strengthen responsible tourism have been applied around the world, fundamentally, the industry continues to have structural challenges that must be addressed. And at the destination level, isn't it clear, unsurprisingly, that businesses need to focus on their bottom line, their competition, and their profits? Governments typically focus upon selling their destination and their unique selling points, while visitors focus upon enjoying themselves. And over time, in this mix of priorities, host communities are often overlooked and disenfranchised. Okay, so to recover from the pandemic, we have to reset and start doing things differently. And I say again, we need to look to our values to do this. And GDP and visitor numbers as values and systems of measurement are broken and discredited. So we need to look to Bhutan with its more holistic model of gross national happiness. I've been privileged to visit and support Bhutan with its tourism planning on many occasions. And while there will always be room for contemplation and questioning, I've never met a single Bhutanese person that doesn't value GNH. Indeed, I don't believe Bhutan has received a single visitor that doesn't value GNH. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Visitors to Bhutan love learning about GNH and sharing what they've learned with others when they leave. In short, every single one of us values our happiness and our well-being, and we're always open to explore and contemplate what a better quality life might look like, especially for our children. The cool thing is, as we've been learning and hearing today, happiness and well-being can be measured. We need to recognize and celebrate this fact and share this news with millions, if not billions, of people around the planet who don't know this. And in so doing, we need to point to the growing number of countries around the world that are turning to the happiness science, policy, and practice to advance their development agendas. Okay, so this is the first point. What else do we value? Well, we're all in this webinar today because we value this life-changing tourism industry. Yet while we may be passionate about it, shouldn't we be asking ourselves, how do we convert the skeptics and those that have suffered owing to badly managed tourism? If we truly believe in this industry and value it, if we want to advocate its merits over its weaknesses, we can build our way out of this COVID mess by recognizing the imperative to value and measure tourism's contribution to destination well-being. It really is that simple. And we have at our fingertips the tools and approach for industry stakeholders to engage host communities and say, how is your quality of life? All right, it's like this. This is your personal scorecard comparing your well-being across 11 domains with all other survey takers. And here's your destination scorecard look. Why do you think your well-being scores are high here and low there? So let's work together to spark conversations about tourism, happiness, and destination well-being. Let's work together to use regenerative tourism as an engine of change to improve those destination deficient scores. Let's work together to develop tourism products, policies, and systems that demonstrably strengthen the quality of life of host communities. If our industry can recognize the good sense of this approach at the destination level and adopt tools and resources that are available here and now, we can build back not just better, but fitter and stronger. We can build back in such a way that our industry is seen to be accelerating not just the take-up of the happiness agenda by local governments and countries around the world, but also as a framework that truly engages host communities and measures movement towards the UN SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you for sticking to your time. You're excellent, really. Okay, now it's Jake's turn. Jake, are you there? Jake?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent.
Okay, Jake.
Can you hear me
Please
okay?
go ahead. Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Jake.
Thank you for having me. It
Not
is
at all.
1
It's
in
a
the
pleasure.
morning where I'm at in Seattle, USA. So I
Good.
apologize for being a little bit sleepy, but I'm with the Transformational Travel Council, and I've been really inspired by all of these presentations today. And I want to recognize that I have this sense that everyone is searching for bold and brave action. And what I'm going to share with you today is, that is sourced in our ability to feel, our ability to tap into emotions. And that is where happiness lives. And happiness, being a noble, sometimes clumsy pursuit, also can provide such amazing gifts and opportunities to stretch, grow, and learn. I'm going to share a passage that is relevant to what we're discussing today from the Transformational Travel Journal. Willa Cather wrote in the south of France, "One cannot divine nor forecast the conditions that'll make happiness. One only stumbles upon them by chance in a lucky hour at the world's end somewhere, and holds fast to those days as if to fortune and fame." Now, at the Transformational Travel Council, we agree with that. Happiness is something that happens on its own, but we also believe it's something that can be actively pursued, that it is an outcome. Just like any emotion that we may have, it is something that can be a practice. It can be something that can be improved upon. Just like we have practices around yoga and meditation, travel can also be a practice that yields the results that we seek. Much of us in today's travel space, we have turned to travel as a place for entertainment, for entitlement, and expectations. And we've also lost touch with those feelings of being alive, those feelings of being happy. We've often turned to travel, like we do other aspects of our lives, as a form of escape, as a form of avoidance and addiction. And we travel like we do, we numb ourselves. And we really need to be focusing on traveling to heal and grow and stretch into new ways of being and engaging with the world. That whole spectrum of emotions that we feel, sometimes that's happiness, but typically when it is happiness, it's something that we've worked for, that is also come from struggle, from suffering, from overcoming obstacles. Those are the pathways to happiness. And often that involves looking within, as Luis shared with us. It is bringing forth what is often unconscious, and unexamined with us. So that is that process of accessing happiness. An example of that is with a group of friends, group of friends of mine. We put intention into climbing Kilimanjaro together. The mountain meant more to us that day. And when we reached the summit, we were overcome with emotion. We shaked and we shivered as we encountered our own soul and the soul of the world in that moment. And we cried. And I've never been happier. And I think those are the moments that we seek. And those are the moments, that organizations, in the travel space, destinations, should really striving to create the conditions for. And at the Transformational Travel Council, we've identified patterns. We've identified and put together this rich and accessible base of knowledge, tools, practices, and resources to really help travelers and organizations, experience designers, and destinations create those conditions for happiness and all the other emotions that we get from travel. Now, I mentioned that could potentially solve the problems. We need behavior change. we need impact. And I want to remind everybody, but in that space of feeling alive is when we have clarity, when we have flow, and when we open up to new sense of courage and confidence that leads to behavior change. And with behavior change, we start to find more compassion, more stewardship with us. We're better versions of ourselves, and we learn to travel and live more mindfully together. So I encourage, as we welcome in this new dawn in travel, for us to all look within as an industry and create the conditions for change, because it's in those moments of clarity that we become a better version of ourselves, and we open up to the true potential and possibility of travel. And that leads us to a path of individual and collective change. I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Wow, what a moving presentation. Thank you so much, Jake. That was really, really very insightful. Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Okay, we go to Mario now from e-commerce. Mario, are you there with us? Mario.
We have a video for Mario. Sorry, let me just.
Mario is from e-commerce. E-commerce is a very, very important organization, part of UNESCO.
Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Right, here we are.
We don't hear the voice.
Yeah, here we come.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Santana. I'm talking to you from Ottawa, Canada. I'm using this very nice landscape of spring, winter time on the transition between the two. I am a full professor at Carleton University and the Secretary General of the International Council of Monuments and Sites. I'm a heritage recording specialist. I do a lot of survey of World Heritage Sites across the world for either a structured retrofit, presentation of the site, planning, conservation, etc. And I'm very, very interested in this opportunity provided to me to talk to you from Canada and talk to you about my international experience and answer these three main questions that were posed to me. And I will try to answer actually the three of them. Well, I think that, happiness and well-being is really important because we want to balance, and especially in tourism, we want to balance the experience of the visitor, but also the commitment to satisfy the goals of the community. Without those two elements, I think that we don't have actually true tourism. I have been a tourist, but I have been a heritage professional, and I have worked closely with communities. And many communities see tourism in a positive way. Some others don't see it that way. And I think that actually this new world of happiness and well-being that I have been discovering through the relationship with our colleagues, I think that I have come to the attention of this particular aspect and how we can evaluate, happiness, this index of happiness. That seems like a good point to kind of evaluate that feedback between the stakeholder, the visitor, etc. And the authorities, of course, that are developing the plans for that particular site or landscape, etc. Well, as a heritage professional in my work, I don't deal a lot with the study of happiness, but as an ICOMOS Secretary General, I think it's a really important aspect. And I know that Fergus, the president of our Sustainable Tourism Committee, is going to be talking to you. So I think that he can stand better on the role of ICOMOS in that particular work. Now, as a professional engaged with communities, I think that I would like to adopt some of these ideas and implement technology, because I'm a heritage recording specialist. I am specialized in recording stuff, recording sites to make decisions. And I think that the discovery of this new area offers a lot. Well, I cannot talk on behalf of our World Heritage alone. I am just a small part of the transformational technologies in serving World Heritage. And I think in this aspect, technologies and the way that we collect data to make decisions, I would say that this is really important in our agenda. And the concept of happiness could also monitor the state of that site, right? And also if the presentation is satisfactory. In our initiative, we try to develop tools that would allow to present multiple narratives of the site to visitors or people that want to understand the values. And I think that the communities that those narratives are presented should be happy. So maybe there are many areas, I think, that of collaboration in how to collect data. New technologies like in Internet of Things, like understanding the carrying capacity of sites, having surveys, apps, using with a graphic interface of information technologies, like geographic systems, etc., could provide a lot of support information for this type of approaches. So I'm really interested to hear what my other colleagues have to say and learn from each other. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you for sharing some time with us. Mario, you represent a very important organization. I know ICOMOS, I've been working very hard with them for long years. And I think that your contribution is absolutely important and very, very vital. Thank you. Okay, Paul, I think I'm done with my group, if I'm not mistaken. Am I?
Yep, great, wonderful. Thanks very much.
Okay.
So we're running a little bit behind time. Apologies for that, everybody. We're into the last session now with Jens Threhenhardt. Jens, yep, I can see you. Can you unmute yourself, please? Great, there we go. And turn your video on if you fancy. Ah, you're still on mute, Jens. Where's he gone? He's disappeared.
Okay.
Oh,
can
Jan
you
is
see
there.
me?
Yes, we can, Jan. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Taleb? Great to see you again.
Very good to see you always. Okay, Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rifai. And first of all, I would like to thank Paul and Laura of Planet Happiness for inviting me to chair this fifth and final block of this significant virtual conference. And I'd also wish to like to wish everybody participating today a happy day of happiness. So this session is about storytelling. So why is storytelling in tourism important for the happiness agenda? So anybody who knows me a bit knows that I'm passionate about storytelling. At Mekong Tourism, we are a public-private framework with our 6 governments. We are the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office and our private sector platform, Destination Mekong. We've launched various award-winning storytelling initiatives to inspire and to conserve, from Mekong Moments to our Mekong Mini Movie Festival campaigns. But why is storytelling so powerful to not only promote destinations and travel experiences, but also change people's behavior to be more responsible? So early humans shared their stories through cave paintings around the fireplace and communicate everything from rumors to community traditions and power struggles. Storytelling has been a powerful, important cornerstone of the tourism industry and comes naturally to people. Yet the tourism industry can and should do a better job of using storytelling to connect travelers with the core priorities and belief systems within the industry. Generally speaking, values within the tourism industry include ideas such as the importance of protecting the environment, supporting local communities, creating awareness of and educating people about socio-cultural and environmental challenges, and being a force for good in a way that creates conditions for a sustainable and even regenerative future for the industry. Though travelers may be arriving in a destination from all over the world, they hold similar core values with each other, with those in the travel destination. For example, generally speaking, people want to leave the world a better place for their children. They want to live in a safe and clean world. When those working in the tourism industry connect with travelers through storytelling, and therefore these shared values, they create the conditions for conversations that actually resonate with travelers. Today, I have three wonderful presenters in this session. First, Ms. Anna Drozdowska, founder of Taste Happiness. Second, Dr. Alvana Damjanovic from Zingidum University, the Vice Dean of International Cooperation. And finally, Mr. Pankaj Manchanda, who is the founder and CEO of Org Traveler. So first, I would like to give the floor, please, to Anna to start her presentation. Anna, are you there?
Yeah, hello everyone, good morning. My name is Anna Drozdowska and I'm a marketing and communication strategist, creating concepts for consumer brands and for the tourism industry for 20 years. I'm also a proud member of the Planet Happiness team. And I will share my screen now. Just yeah. I hope everyone can see my screen now. So today I will give you a brief overview of the Taste of Happiness project that was...
Anna, where are you from? Where are you calling from, Anna?
I'm calling from Poland today.
Good, great country. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so to the brief overview of the Taste of Happiness project that was created in partnership with Planet Happiness. It combines storytelling with digital innovation and focuses on host communities and the well-being agenda. So everyone already knows what the storytelling is. Telling a good story makes the message you wish to communicate over 20 times more memorable and persuasive, and it is considered to be the most powerful marketing tool of our times. And especially destinations love storytelling, as stories bring places alive, create an emotional bond with tourists, enhance their experience, and turn visitors to ambassadors. After they return home, they usually tell these stories to their friends and family. But there is often something missing in those stories, local people. So if you come across powerful campaigns like this from Singapore or Kerala, they are focusing on the people and their stories and passions. And we feel that this is the way to go. And instead of happy tourists, we should see happy local people, the destination's heart and soul. We call them local heroes. And all destinations have their local heroes, and they all have stories to tell. And what is the best way of telling stories is through food. It's over food, like it's been done for generations. So to support destinations and local communities and the happiness agenda, we have created a Taste of Happiness project. The project's idea is to create a series of quality film episodes presenting a destination's culinary heritage, but differently, through local stories, through local heroes and their stories. So the Taste of Happiness is not about food. It's about people who grow it, make it, serve it, enjoy it, and everything in between. So we simply put genuine people who are usually behind the scenes on stage and present them to a global audience. In this way, we bring to life stories that exist in their minds and memories, and we prevent them from getting lost. Through those stories, they also tell us what makes them and their communities happy. Heroes may come from different hospitality and culinary industry areas, strong personalities, and real change makers. The project is in line with the Happiness Index domains and SDG goals. It focuses on local communities, promotes social inclusivity and empowers women, promotes happiness and the well-being agenda, educates in culinary heritage and sustainable travel, promotes healthy food habits and farm-to-fork initiatives, and supports the growth of the small business. The project is based on a digital platform where all the content is placed. In this way, we can easily bring viewers to this content with the most advanced internet campaigns. Traffic and all views are precisely measured. And thanks to big data systems and AI technology, we know exactly who's watched our films and what their profile is. After watching the film and getting emotionally engaged with our destination story, we can direct the viewer to offline or online sales channels of the destination or its products and brands by sending him personalized ads. The viewer will be more willing to interact with such ads than with a typical campaign without the prior emotional context. To summarize, the Taste of Happiness project shows the power of connecting people through passions, gives a sense of community and local pride to residents, helps local people increase their level of happiness, and gives a positive impact. In short, we have a strong communication concept, the best TV crew from international TV networks, and the best global digital technology. This all together makes a powerful tool for tourism recovery. So do contact us for more details. And it was a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Anna. And I think we move right along to our next speaker, which is Ivana. Are you there, Ivana?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I just share my screen and hopefully.
Okay, good. We see your screen.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, hello everybody from Serbia. My name is Ivana Damjanovic, and I'm a professor at University. And I'm going
It's my university as well. It's my university as well.
Yes, I know, Professor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and wrap my answers around the three questions that we had around these three ongoing trends. So the importance of tourism and happiness agenda today, I believe, lies in capacity to transform the world of travel, because tourism was long considered the magic box in which no matter how many resources we use, they will materialize and we will profit from them infinitely. And I was recently asked to define happiness, and this is what I came up with, that it's multifaceted, that it's inclusive, and that it relates to the connection between individual and universal. So in a tourism context, I guess the route forward calls for tracing backward steps to the point which allows rerouting towards a more favorable future. So these steps, happiness translates into the sentiment of gratefulness. What I mean here is that when tourism values the resources that it is invited to use and hopefully provokes this response. It's when all those who are even touched by tourism feel it as a force for good. So happiness and tourism need to know the needs and hurts of communities and nature of destination in order to help it heal and regenerate. Now, why? Well, last year emphasized well-being motivated travel. However, I wonder whether it's really well-being if it is designed only for tourists, because well-being should be a state for all or not at all. And well-being relies on the truth, which is hidden behind destination stories. And we all, I think, travel to take up a role in a story. So the pitfall so far has been on obliterating the genuine destination stories to embrace the stories that a tourist has envisioned. So this way, destinations become all things to all people, but to its own. Whereas tourists should not be allowed to demand, but to choose from the repertoire of stories to play. So that is why local communities should be empowered to take back that narrative, which through its nuances speaks about the destination glories and visions and hurts, and even give voice to those who cannot speak. And the essence of the place creates the experience even before travel begins. Actually, even before tourism is imagined, and it exists without tourists and only then extends its reality to welcome them. However, destination local communities often don't feel fit to portray the essence, so the stories are told by third parties. And for example, responsible travel journalists, they have invaluable perspective and reach, and it should be enriched by this symbiosis with the local communities. And finally, the pre-pandemic and current time introduced and that emphasized the virtualization of both tourism, storytelling, and education. So analyzing and discussing digital travel stories with my students during online classes has become a routine now. And how does this all extend to what I work? Well, I think academia bears an enormous responsibility of preparing future professionals, tourism professionals, for a mindful and responsible approach to tourism. Because general well-being is not a competitive advantage in tourism, but a warp and weft in weaving destination and traveler stories. So making our students equipped and self-confident to take on the compiling and imagining and publishing true stories is the most sustainable role I think that academia can play for the future of tourism that we are trying to envision and support today. Admittedly, us tourism educators do have limitations in introducing this agenda because we can't simply go and devote entire courses to this aim, but our academic freedom allows us to sneak this agenda into at least existing courses. So my teaching experience includes partnering with real travel journalists and engaging my students into simulated or real storytelling projects blended into existing courses. And this has proven to be a really particularly rewarding experience in international groups of students. So to conclude, these are the values that we teach our children, and they all support this well-being approach to life and tourism. So our task as teachers and facilitators is to extend this teaching to our students so tourism can actually really be a means to happiness. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ivana. Very insightful presentation with some really nice points. I think we'll discuss in the Q&A a little bit more. But I'd like to first move on to our third presenter, which is Mr. Pankaj Manchada. He is the CEO and founder of Org Traveler. It's a very interesting new platform. And I just actually saw them. They also pitched at the startup competition for Southeast Asia with the Asian Development Bank. So I'm a little bit familiar with them. Pankaj, he's traveling right now, so he sent us a video. So maybe Paul, if you could help us play that video now, that would be great. Thank you.
Most of us with an opportunity to introspect our lives across different levels, sectors, and cultures. This pause, I believe, has enabled people to reflect on the true value of happiness and well-being. Most people can now relate that the key to have an enjoyable, healthy, and productive life depends on our understanding of what is important to us. And the attribute in most cases, which people are discovering, are things which are truly sustainable and meaningful. In fact, we are seeing this tangible perspective change where people are slowly moving away from the goals of materialistic and impulsive gains to more on personal accountability, social responsibility, and sustainability. Incidentally, travel and visiting new destinations, has evolved to be one of the most sought after aspirations for people across the globe after the lockdown specifically. Everybody wants to travel. I do believe that this reset button enables a larger percentage of us to follow this newfound thought process, and hopefully we will evolve with a more constructive mind shift post-COVID. Right, so Org Traveler is a startup project use case which adopts new age immersive technologies of augmented reality, virtual reality, geolocation, analytics, and we've tried to put them to use to promote and therefore preserve the tangible and intangible heritage. We've started in India with consecutive phases across the globe. That's the plan. The project vision and mandates have adopted the attributes of happiness and well-being of our stakeholders at the very center while designing and evolving the solution and platform. We believe that a sustainable and resilient tourism model can evolve only if a viable economic model is established for the lowest denominator at a destination, which we believe in most cases are the host communities who seldom derive the benefit from tourism, which is one of the top GDP drivers across the globe. Incidentally, while exploring a new place, as you can relate to it, or a destination, most travelers these days seek to experience its local culture, traditions, art forms, culinary delights, etc. The host communities in these destinations are custodians to offer these authentic experiences. So Org Traveler's mandate is to connect the visitors directly to the community, which delivers on two crucial points. The first one being it completes the experiential travel piece for the visitors. They can acknowledge and appreciate the finer nuances of the tangible and intangible cultural heritage of a destination that they are visiting. Point two is we're trying to evolve a model where we facilitate tourism dollars to flow to the host communities directly and help evolve sustainable livelihoods for them by creating viable economic models at the grassroots level. So by aspiring to achieve this agenda, we believe that communities would eventually be motivated to be natural guardians or custodians to the heritage of the region. It could be tangible, intangible, and actively work towards its preservation. While on the other hand, it completes the experiences of the travelers who would now be more sensitized and appreciative towards the culture, its heritage, and sensibility. So it's a kind of a win-win model that we're trying to achieve through this. Specifically on this point, since we're talking about alignment in context to sustainable development goals, I would request you to please download the ICOMOS SDG policy guidance document, which has been published on March 17th. It is available on their website. Incidentally, Org Traveler's use case is also documented as a case study of how tech-based interventions can be adopted. In this case, we've tried to align our mandate with SDG 8 under the broader vision of preserving culture, heritage, and community livelihoods. The vision for Org Traveler as a project is to really collaborate with the ecosystem and co-create a sustainable tourism model, which makes heritage and culture available for all. So our work really offers us an opportunity to document, curate, and bring forth the unique traditions, the rituals, culinary habits, dependence on environment, cathartic practices, ethnographic accounts of the communities, and their thought processes, which basically also highlights the nuances of ecology, flora and fauna, and their impact on living heritage, including the built heritage. The intervention that we are designing is really attempting to dovetail into the tourism business domain, which is one of the top GDP drivers across the globe. In our current vision, we are aligning to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of 11, 8, and 4. Our vision is to further adopt guidelines to adhere to the quadruple bottom line, which is achieving sustainability basis the pillars of purpose, planet, social, and profit.
Thank you very much, Mankash, for this presentation. I think Mr. Mankash is also on the call, if I'm not mistaken. Paul would probably know more. I think I'll give it back to Paul for now. I think now we have the Q&A session. I'm not sure if it goes by session or how it is organized. Maybe Paul, back to you for now.
Yeah, just for your information, Jens, Mr. Mankash is here, but he is muted and the video is not on. But if he unmutes himself, I guess he could speak.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, but if Pankaj is there, you might want to just say hello and show your face there quickly, Pankaj, if you're around. Here we are.
Hi. Good afternoon. This is Pankaj. I'm sorry, I'm in a location with a very spotty connection. So the video, if I switched on, I think I'll just drop off. So sorry about that.
Pankaj? Where are you calling from?
I am in India. I'm based out of Delhi, but at this time I'm outside of Delhi, just on the road.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pankaj. For the discussion that follows, we've gone a little bit over time already, 15 minutes over time. What we can do is Talib has his hand up already. If people want to put their hands up to speak, then Jürgen, I'll hand over to Jürgen to moderate the discussion. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Paul, and also thank you to AJ from the International Institute for Peace through Tourism, to Jeffrey. Of course, Jeffrey's with so many different organizations, this time with SunX and with our own very well ICTP. And Paul, so far, this was an absolute excellent discussion. I learned a lot. And I see hands are coming up, so please do this. While we wait for this, I just wanted to announce also on Tuesday, we have an event which goes into storytelling, travel and tourism, the art of creating memories. And we will meet tour guides from around the world telling their story. And on the 27th, we have another story we're telling on a witness who escaped from East Germany back in the 80s. It's going to be interesting. And finally, on the 30th, we have an event from TUI, tour operator, about their CARE Foundation. And you can find this on worldtourismevents.com. So let's start with Talib. Go ahead, Talib.
Thank you so much, Jürgen. Thank you, everybody, for putting this wonderful thing together. I did mention something regarding domestic tourism, but I didn't hear much about it. Now, why am I saying this? Because I truly believe that this is not just an outcome of COVID-19, where the rise of domestic tourism has become important economically. It's also a matter of principle to us. A country that's not enjoyed by its people, that's not visited by its people, cannot and should not be enjoyed by anybody else from outside. It's the local people that matter. So I want to hear if anybody has some thoughts on domestic tourism and how we can promote that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Talib. And next is Stefan Peterson. Stefan, let us also know where you're from, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Stefan. I call from Sweden. So this has been a really interesting presentations, I think. It has given me a lot of clues how to work with destinations as I work with smaller destinations all around. I have one question. That is, if we want to introduce the happiness index and the work with happiness, what do you think would be the first thing we should do if we start working with the community and smaller destinations? Is there a kind of first step?
I think Paul would probably be able to respond to this.
Great. Thanks very much, Stefan. So on our Planet Happiness website, we have an approach page with a drop-down menu on how, and that how page lists the 10 steps of our process. At the outset, what we always recommend to people is to actually take the survey to begin with, to familiarize themselves with the survey and the questions that are in it. And then we have a series of learning materials and resources around that to become familiar with them and to understand what the best messages are to communicate with people in the destination. And then we recommend that a local team be formed at the destination level, and then we sign a simple agreement with that team, recognizing what the role of the team is and where we come in to backstop and support the team with tools, resources, with learning to help them design a process to deploy the survey in the way that Sue Fayed described in Sue's presentation. And because the survey can be deployed online through the various tourism networks, through local governments, through the private sector, through social groups, then in this way the survey can be deployed and the data can come in, and then the ball starts to roll. So yeah, certainly recommend anybody to take a look at the resources and the how page on our approach page, which I guess one of my colleagues may, or I could put into the chat box. Somebody will.
Yeah, and we would also, of course, put it on World Tourism Network. Paul is a member, and so you can easily find it. Now, Jeffrey, you raised your hand.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Can I add something? This is Laura. Jeffrey, I just...
Okay, go on.
Okay, I think there was someone else in between, but Jeffrey, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to pick up on Taleb's point about domestic tourism, and he asked for some comments. And I think Taleb has been pushing this all year, and I think he's onto something. In the current situation, and nobody knows how long this is going to last, the public health requirements based on a mutating and spreading COVID virus, there is likely to be barriers to international tourism from public health authorities, and they're going to be very complex and changing barriers. We're seeing that at the moment. One of the values of domestic tourism is that you don't have such barriers. The barriers are national regulations, and for the most part, people have more freedom to move within a jurisdiction than they do between jurisdictions. So that's one sort of short-term value, because the COVID situation could be with us for a couple of years or more, nobody knows. And then the second advantage, and that goes back into Larry Dwyer's excellent presentation, is around the value in terms of balance of trade. When you are a person traveling abroad to another country, you become an export for that other country and an import for your country. And that means that your balance of trade suffers to some extent. If you collectively take the 1.4 billion tourists that Chris Flynn talked about, that's a hell of a lot of money in GDP terms. And if those people travel domestically, they will be stimulating the domestic economy. They'll be spending their money inside the country, helping the regrowth of small businesses inside the country, as distinct from a perfectly viable alternative, but more complex, of taking that money and spending it in another jurisdiction. So from a national viewpoint, promoting domestic tourism has some real value adds. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Are there any more questions? I don't see any hands here. I see a little bit on the chat boxes, but please raise your hand even if you left a message in the chat box. It makes it easier to respond. And
I think my colleague Laura was going to say something there. Laura?
Oh, thanks, Paul. And sorry, Jeffrey, about that. I just want to add that the process, the 10-step Planet Happiness process, is peer-reviewed. So this is an important aspect. And I'm not going to start my video. I'm going to say goodnight to you all. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here. It's been really wonderful. And I just, I'm so grateful to all of you. So good night and good morning to the rest of the world. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Laura. Good night. We have AJ and Tony. AJ, go ahead.
You're on mute, Ajay.
Thank you. 2 quick things. Well, the first was in response to the concept of promoting domestic tourism. I mean, we are a country, India is a country of 1.3 billion people, with 26 plus states, each with its own different cuisine, culinary experiences, festivals, etc. And when we had the problems of SARS, when we had the subprime problem of the global meltdown, when we had the 9/11, it was domestic tourism that kept the industry going. Because while we have something like 25 or 30 million outbound and 11 or 12 inbound, we have 180 million domestic tourism trips happening across the country. So yes, I mean, that's a huge potential that needs to be tapped, and the government of India has stepped in with a specific campaign promoting domestic tourism. So that was one part. But there's a question I want to ask Professor Larry Dwyer, because he made some very, very interesting points, and I'd just like to ask him, Larry, what is the one thing you would say to tourism policy planners which would facilitate the achievement of our 2030 SDGs and beyond? What is it that needs to change in the attitude or approach? What's the one thing you'd say to policy planners?
Well, that's a tough one, but one important issue, I think, is the issue of measurement. I think we'd all agree that the happiness and welfare and quality of life, well-being area is treated somewhat suspiciously by policymakers and so on, because we lack the measures, the credible measures that economists, for example, can come up with. And you know the adage, what's not measured is not managed. And that's why, as an economist, I'm putting a lot of effort into understanding about those measures. And I'm optimistic that many national statistical agencies, government agencies worldwide, are now developing measures of well-being. Some of them are experimental, but others are now finding their way into national accounts. And I think that is a very, very important process that's taking place, that it can give people like ourselves who believe in this process more credibility, because we can point to the measures that can stand aside the standard types of measures that have been used for decades.
Thank you, Larry. Let's go to Tony in Uganda, I believe. Tony, welcome.
If you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a couple of observations or comments with relation to gross national happiness and governance, because as you know, there is a lot of a few countries that have got governance issues in the world, in addition to political turmoil. And obviously, a traveler wouldn't go to a country when they consider it to be politically unstable. I'll give a few examples. Obviously, we know what's happening in Syria. We know what's happening in Burma. And that all goes to show boils down to the gross national happiness of a country and in relation to travel. I know in Africa we always watch the major news networks mostly emphasizing on the bad news in Africa, and most of our tourism boards are very anxious to see the bad news, not to see the bad news being publicized, because obviously a tourist who wants happiness would not want to go to such a country. I think that's something I've observed. Number two is in our national budgets, especially in East Africa, our period for national budget is usually June, and submission is by April. And how do we? Maybe I'll put this to Larry as an economist. How do we put gross national happiness as a priority for the budgets that are read, instead of emphasizing on the other economic indicators? Because at the end of the day, if you say a country is doing so well in terms of GDP, it doesn't boil down to income distribution among the population, and ultimately a receptive community that would be receptive to tourists. My last question would be, have we considered demographics in terms of measuring happiness? Because obviously if you're a teenager, you cannot well, much as some things are universal, but a teenager would probably want to be happy in a disco rather than my mom, who would love to go to a cathedral and or to the Vatican and get happiness from that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's give it to Larry. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Larry, could you unmute yourself, please? You're still muted, Larry. Still muted.
Going to the wrong. I'm
There
sorry,
we
I was
go.
going to the
Okay,
wrong
no
button.
problem.
I mean, again, it's a tough one to answer. The question is, how do we convince governments and so on that they should incorporate well-being indicators into development planning and so on? I think we're all victims of neoliberalism that seems to permeate much of government thinking. And all around the world, GDP has been taken as a measure of progress, and it's not. And we know it's not. And I think there's a real education process here, right from the beginnings in the education system, about the importance of well-being measures being just as viable, if not more so, than many other types of measures. And I think the other issue is the change of paradigm, the mindset change that people have come up with, the change of consciousness. Now, that sounds good, but that is enormously difficult to bring about. And yet, over time, it can be brought about if people at grassroots level come to understand the issues that we've been talking about today. So there's an educational element as well as a political element, I think.
Thank you very much, Larry. We have three more hands up here, and we're going to go to actually four. We have Martha, we have Anu, Talib, and Jeffrey. And I think after this, we probably have to call it a night and a day. We're a little bit more than 3 hours now. And the streaming, I think, is pretty much stopping automatically after 3 hours and 30 minutes. So we're coming to a forced stop here pretty soon. And let's go hear from Martha. She was patiently waiting. Go ahead, Martha. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I think I have done.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I've actually just lowered my hand because the previous two questions were exactly what I wanted to ask at the beginning. So, you know, how do you convince the decision makers, the policy makers, to at least not even focus, but even look into the happiness agenda? And then, and Larry was saying about the importance of measurement, which is very important. And I know very, very valid point, and was a change of mindset. But also I wonder whether maybe, Paul, because you mentioned there is the sort of how to do things on your website. So I wonder if there's maybe like a list of destinations or case studies, or maybe you're planning to do it of the destinations that are already looking into this, looking beyond GDP, looking into happiness and how successful they are, you know, because that could be another way of maybe convincing other destinations, our decision makers, to look into the happiness agenda. So it's just, I guess my question was just very similar to the previous ones, but also the idea of having those case studies and to showcase that this is actually working and this is the only way to go. Thank you. And thank you for the fantastic event. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. So maybe at the end we have Jeffrey, Talib, and then of course we're going to give it back to Paul to answer these questions. But can we go maybe to Anu? Anu also raised hand for quite some time. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all the inspirational presentations. Actually, I was also trying to really get myself, you know, trying to understand when we say this whole idea of happiness and well-being. So do we all understand the same sort of terminologies? Because the question that Tony has posed, right? So sort of a happy travel or happiness for different tourists demography or from cultural background. And precisely now when Talib has already raised, you know, this whole notion of that we need to really look at domestic and regional because of the COVID situation. So we are dealing with a new set of a demography or culturally, you know, different background, the tourists coming from a different, you know, cultural backgrounds and ideas about what happiness means for them. So I think, you know, and in existing practices or literature also, when we say people who engages in responsible travel or, you know, or sort of a self-exploration sort of we always term them as a niche or special interest group, you know. And if you take the example of Bhutan also, you know, the high value, low volume is it's an exclusive market, right? So, but the challenge here is how do we make it more mainstream, isn't it? So if we want to really enhances the importance of happiness and well-being that contribute to SDGs and also sort of a, you know, Paris Agreement and all, we need to find a common way or platform in which how do we make you know, the mass market or also as a, you know, something towards that way, you know, so we cannot exclude this well-being and happiness as a solely to the you know, hands of an exclusive group or special interest group or high-end group, because that is just a mere size of the tourist demography. So we are talking about the GDP, government priorities, communities' aspirations, and it has to be mainstream. So how do we change this narrative, and how do we ensure that, you know, this whole reorienting ourselves to thinking about bringing this sort of a very much self-searching and very much, you know, sort of a how do you call it, an awakening kind of a travel businesses to the mass populations. So that is a challenge. So it's something, because if you want to talk about bringing impact at scale, you know, at a larger populations, we need to see how do we break this barrier, because so long it's always been kept in a very exclusive, it's been sold and understood as an exclusive market, and this should no longer be the case if you want to bring impact at scale. Thank you.
No, very valid points. I'm sure that Talib and Jeffrey and also Paul can add to it. But Jeffrey, you're next.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to make two brief comments. One in relation to Larry's comments, and Larry always makes a lot of sense. The challenge that we have is you have 120 people on average, I've been monitoring it, on this group from around the world. The system of national accounts has been in place for 150 years, is employed by virtually by all governments, and has a continuous systemic development process from every country and embedded in every country's national statistics. So in order to make a change, we might think it's great here, but when you actually put it out into the wider world, it will take a hell of a long time, in my view. Now, there's been a lot of good progress in this area. Paul has mentioned the OECD are actually having information on national happiness. France, under President Macron, did a major study with Joe Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize laureate economist. So it's there, but don't expect it to happen too quickly. That's point number one. Point number two, I just wanted to add something to AJ's point on the Indian visitors. And nobody's mentioned China today, and China is such an important player in global development. It's the second superpower now. And in 1999, China introduced a concept called red tourism. And that was for visitors to go to the places where Chairman Mao had stopped during the Long March. And there's sort of all sorts of memorials to those stopping points. 5 years later, China had, and I'm going to say this very slowly, 500 million red tourists. 500 million in 5 years. So again, to Taleb's point, this demonstrates how rapidly you can make a real change if you're in a country where, in China, of course, the government dictates it to happen, and it happens. And that's the only way you can make China work. And China was able to suddenly divert all of these tourists, much more than they have internationally, divert them into a domestic tourism mold. And just to finish, I will also say, China has a sensitivity. It's lost in today's sort of political fights with the US and China. But during one of the last great crises, probably the economic meltdown, China committed to keep its outbound tourism going to help its neighbors in their activities. So there's some very serious economic issues at play here, which the national interest dimension and how the big policies play out is really, really important.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, and China definitely is a number game, I guess. But Taleb, you wanted to add something to it.
Thank you so much. I think just to go back to some of the comments that were made about index of happiness. Happiness is about the people that live in a place, about the recipient community, it's not about the visitors. Visitors will be happy if the local community is happy. I think we heard that from so many people. So it's important to keep that in mind all the time. Now, why am I concentrating on domestic tourism? I think Larry brought in a very important thing. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. And very few countries, especially in the developing world, have a measurement of domestic tourism. I was very impressed to hear Ajay speak about the number of domestic tourists. But the walls between domestic tourism visitors and the community must be lowered. In the United States and Europe, 70 to 75% of the traffic is domestic travel. Only developing countries are lagging behind on this thing. And I think it's about time to do that, to be aware of it. India and China are very important examples. As Jeffrey said, I must comment what Jeffrey said 100%. But smaller countries also. Every country in the world has its own culture, its own story to tell. So even smaller countries can promote their own domestic tourism. If people don't travel in their own country, they will not be able to receive anybody. The walls between the visitors and the receiving community must be lowered. Otherwise, there is no sense in making tourism an interaction or an activity of human value. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Taleb, and thank you every one of you. Thank you so much for hanging in there. Now it's we still have 83 people live on this event after 3 hours and 20 some minutes. So this is absolutely amazing. And Paul, your team and everyone else did such an amazing job. I can tell you, I'm just looking at the stats here. We had a little bit more than 13,000 people so far watching what we're doing in and out, what is very good, and we're going to get a lot more. So we can hopefully make a little bit of a difference. And this, again, I wanted to thank everyone. If you're not yet a member of the World Tourism Network, please join us. Paul is part of it. We're going to start also an interest group on happiness, like we have one on peace through tourism. And you can go to wtn.travel and join us and attend more events and discussions they're about to come. But I wanted to give back to Paul and say thank you again, and thank you for everyone for being here tonight or this morning. And I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Go ahead, Paul. You have the last word.
Great, thanks, Jürgen. I will close at the end with a wonderful video that we've just produced and share that with everybody. It's just 2.5 minutes, and it's an introduction to Planet Happiness. Prior to that, just to come back to the points that Anu was making. Namaste, Anu. Great to see you again. It's a long time since we met in person.
Hi, good to see you, Paul.
We are in this stage.
Anu is in Bhutan. Paul, Anu is in Bhutan.
Oh, is she? I thought you were in Kathmandu, Anu.
I'm in
Nepal.
India.
Nepal.
Ah, yeah. Okay. So 10 years ago, when Bhutan, was working with the UN on this high-level this resolution on happiness and well-being, and the following year there was a meeting at the UN that brought representatives from countries around the world, and in the last 10 years, a lot of progress has been made with different countries adopting different approaches to introduce the well-being agenda according to the level of expertise and the knowledge that they have around them. And as Jeff said, OECD has been supporting this process of identifying what the indicators and the measurements should be for well-being across the different domains. And Bhutan, it has done an exceptionally thorough job with both objective indicators and subjective indicators. The work with its subjective indicators, as Dorji was saying, is very detailed and in-depth. Now, by way of contrast, you have the objective measures that Nancy Hay was talking about in her presentation, the availability of doctors, the availability of health services, and the number of incidences of particular health conditions or availability to public spaces. These objective measures are what are used primarily by governments. And later today, the World Happiness Report for 2021 will be released. And this also ranks countries around the world according to these objective measures. And I think Finland has ranked #1 again for a number of years. Now, to explain a little bit about these subjective measures and how happy are you, how is your quality of life, the relevance here, I think, for me, at that high-level meeting in New York, Jeffrey and I were talking to Lord Gus O'Donnell, who at the time was the head of the UK Civil Service. And the UK had recently introduced subjective well-being measures into their national statistical surveys. And so Jeff actually said to Gus, why is David Cameron doing this? Is he just giving lip service to this agenda, or, what's his interest? And Gus O'Donnell's response was, well, actually, David Cameron is far more enthusiastic and interested in this well-being agenda than the current level of awareness among all levels of government, among business and among civil society have of this agenda. People are just not familiar with it. And if he was to jump in with 2 feet and really start pushing it, the media in particular in the UK would undermine him and criticize him based on a lack of knowledge and understanding of what well-being is, how it's defined, and how it's measured. And Gus O'Donnell went on to say that what was needed is a narrative that explains what this agenda is to all levels and departments of government, to all different types of businesses, and to civil communities, civil society communities, how a narrative is needed to explain it to them, to make it relevant to them, so that they're applying it in their work. And this is, you know, this stayed in my head for quite some time, and it is actually what we are doing with Planet Happiness. We are using what was, until, you know, the pandemic, one of the world's largest industries, the greatest employers, that involves so many government departments, not just tourism, but, you know, obviously finance, transport, environment, culture, and so on, and so many different types of businesses. I mean, if you look at WTTC and look at the membership of WTTC as the apex body of the tourism sector, the diversity of business is extraordinary. And so by focusing on tourism and well-being in destinations, we have a storyline that engages all these governments at the local government level. And if we're focused on World Heritage, of course, that has a national government interest as well. So it brings national government into the dialogue, and all these different types of businesses and tourists as well. So we bring a storyline to the well-being agenda to facilitate and enable the take-up of this at the local government and at the national government level. And this is why I think our project, Planet Happiness, with the tourism sector is quite exceptional and exciting, because it has this real possibility to accelerate the take-up of this agenda to fix the problems that, depending on GDP alone, leaves us all with, and is destroying the environment. You know, in the US, in the UK, psychological mental health diseases are on the rise, because, you know, people have focused for many years on treating depression rather than advocating what happiness and well-being is about. So yeah, that's my concluding remarks. And so thank you, everybody, from the deepest bits of my heart there and soul, and thank you so much to the Honourable DG Dorji Draddle and Bhutan's participation in this event, and everybody else. So thanks enormously. Do stay in touch with us, as I mentioned before. And to close, I would like to share this video with you. Thank you. There it is. Thanks, Jürgen. Thanks.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. Thanks, Paul. All the best to Oz.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was
Thank you, Paul.
excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent,
Thanks.
excellent, Paul. Excellent.
Bye-bye.
Bye.